The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes regular session minutes of 5/23/13, governance minutes of 6/3/13, acceptance of warrants 49V13, 48P13, and 50P13.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor?
You need a second.
Oh,
You need a second.
She did.
Okay. Rob made the
Second.
What did he
motion.
say? Oh, you
want a
made the
second?
motion?
You want a second?
But I moved it. I can second it too?
No, Rob thinks he moved it.
second.
Oh, okay.
Any questions?
Sorry. No.
It's all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving along to our student representative.
on up,
Thank
Cole.
you, Ryan, for coming.
Yep.
Before we get to you, I just want to acknowledge Cole. Cole, can you come up? Thank you
Hi,
for
guys.
coming tonight.
Thank you,
course.
Cole.
We appreciate you
In
taking the
this seat,
time.
huh?
Yeah, no.
I know, how do we look from that angle? Intimidating?
No, not at all. Although it's like it's different. It's a little more official this way.
Well, congratulations on graduating.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It was a great ceremony.
Yeah,
I
it was
really- I
it was
really
good. It
enjoyed
was it went very smoothly, very quickly too. It wasn't like a 3-hour one that I heard like Pentucket had or.
Oh,
Cable
no, it
had.
was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Everything went great. But we do want to just thank you for everything that you did the whole year. You were a breath of fresh air. I really enjoyed everything that you told us, and you just are so enthusiastic about everything. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
We all do.
Yes, absolutely we do.
So, of course, we want to give you your name tag. I don't know what you'll do with that. You'll hang it up in your college dorm.
That sounds nice.
And then, of course, we have an award of recognition just for you being here for the whole year with us.
Thank you.
You know, you're going to be very hard to replace.
Yes, definitely.
But we
Thank
really
you
do
so
appreciate
much.
it.
I appreciate everything. Like you got like. Coming here, I didn't really know what to expect, and then I learned so much about like how the school works. Like I never would have learned any of this stuff that I did, like sitting here and listening to everything. And this is something I definitely like way in the future look forward to doing.
You get old like us.
It would be a fortunate district that have you.
Exactly, that's great. So where are you going to school?
I'm going to UMass Amherst.
Okay, so you will leave in like August?
Yeah, I'm
Mid-August.
leaving August 30th, a little later than
okay.
a lot of other places, but
Okay,
yeah.
we wish you the
Oh,
very best.
congratulations. That sounds very
Congratulations.
exciting.
Thank you.
Have you decided what you're going to be studying?
Yeah, I'm going to be studying biology, and I'm going to go pre-med with it.
Good luck.
Oh, wow.
You'll do a great job.
you.
Cole.
Good for you.
I have no doubt, and that is a great school. You're gonna be out in my neck of the woods, 20 minutes from my home.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's I live in Western Mass.
Oh,
I'm home
okay.
there, so I went to UMass Amherst.
Yes,
really?
she's-
I went to
So I-
Amherst.
Really? My mom did too.
Good choice.
So,
Wow, that's great.
yeah, I'm excited.
great.
Yeah, you'll do
Thank you,
very well
guys.
They're
there.
very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And Cole's gonna, remember we talked about we're gonna do a little TV show? So
Yeah.
we're working on that. We're gonna do that next week. So we're gonna
Oh,
tape it
good.
next week.
Cool.
We're pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm really excited.
We don't know how
about
it'll
it.
work, but we're gonna work together, right, Cole?
That's
We're
great.
gonna work together.
That's
I
great.
also wanted to thank you guys for choosing me for the Baker Adams Citizen Scholar. It really touched me that you guys recognized me as someone who really exemplifies everything that, you know, Baker Adams represented and that you wanted in a student. And I really, really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you
So
earned
thank
that.
you.
That was
Well, your
unanimous.
application stood out.
Definitely
All
earned
the
it.
contribution-
For sure.
all the contribution you make to the school community is really
Absolutely.
very significant and
Nowadays,
meaningful.
yeah.
There's
Thank
very
you
little
very
that you
much.
didn't get involved in some level. That's great. That's what, you know, that's what high school should be about, is exploratory options for the future. So.
Right.
And
So
we
you
did
made your
review
family
those
very proud.
applications anonymously, so we didn't know whose application we were reviewing.
well.
So.
That's true.
I'm glad I stood out
Right.
even without my name.
Yes, you
To you
did.
guys.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well deserved. All right, so we'll present that to Cole. We're gonna go over there, Marty. Let you by. All right, all right. Thank you, Cole. Thank you. And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. How about that?
Unless you want to.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you so much.
Be in touch.
Thank you guys.
I'll see you running on the streets. Already have a couple of times.
Running on the streets.
That's great. Okay. So poor Ryan now has to follow.
That's all right.
Okay, so what do you have for us, Ryan? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
appreciate it. You're 11th grade.
Yeah, I'm a junior, so I'll be a senior next year. And
Okay.
hopefully fill in his footsteps. Who knows?
That'd be great.
All right, so, well, the past few weeks, obviously, things have been kind of winding down at Georgetown High School. And we finish school not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. So we're kind of just like counting down the days until we have finals, and then we're finally out of school. So what the things that have been going on? Well, in terms of sports, we had our baseball team make it to the playoffs for Division IV, but unfortunately they lost their playoff game last week. And that was kind of sad because a lot of them were hoping for a really good season.
A repeat,
and
yeah.
the seniors were wanting a great end to their career, but they couldn't have that. And we had a similar story with the softball team, but we're just thankful that they made it as far as they did. And it's just been crazy with the seniors, and like we had senior awards last week and we had graduation, and they kind of just like left their mark on the school. And it was so funny because the last day, right before their last final, they kind of were just like running through the halls. They were kind of like screaming, just like pounding on the lockers, just like showing their enthusiasm and like how happy they were to be done with school. And like in the parking lot that morning, they were like blasting music, like having their own party. So it's nice. Like, and now we're all the juniors and everyone in the high school like feels like they're 1 year older. So it's kind of crazy, like, because we're like filling in. We're just like, we feel like a year older, but we still feel like the age we are now. So kind of like our feelings are a little all over the place. And then this morning we had the undergraduate awards. I mean, not the undergraduate, the underclassmen awards breakfast. So kind of just recognize the achievements in various aspects like athletic, community service, and academic among all of the underclassmen in the community. And that was great to just like celebrate everyone and what they've done this past year. And then tonight there's a basic acting showcase going on, as you saw. Yeah, like Miss Donovan, she started teaching at Georgetown. She's really young. She's in her 20s, and she graduated just from Georgetown in 2004.
Right.
But it was wonderful
That's neat.
Yeah, and she came back 3 years ago, and it was awesome that she came back because she's brought so much to the community. Mm-hmm. She has been so fortunate. She's like really good with theater, and that's kind of her thing. So she's been educating the students at Georgetown with that, and she kind of created her own course. She created basic acting at the high school past few years, and next year actually she created another course called intermediate acting, which is awesome because it shows that like the arts and just like celebrating that aspect of high school life is like still continuing. And we're having like the basic acting showcase is just like the culmination of everything the basic acting class or classes have done throughout the semester, and then they just put on a performance to the community. So it's pretty much what's been going on with the high school.
Now, Ryan won't
Sounds like
tell you
fun.
this, but Ryan did really well this morning, particularly in the AP categories. I think
Thank
you
you.
were probably the AP winner in every one of the categories.
Yeah.
You know, you're near the top of the class too. Are you number one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good for you.
So
Hopefully
he-
it stays that way.
So
but,
he's a great representative of
Thank you.
again what the school has to offer, and guys like him take advantage of everything they can
Thank you.
and offer to come to school committee meetings.
Yeah,
when you-
of course.
Right? Of course. That's amazing.
We gotta have a student rep, so don't want to just leave the seat empty.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your success this year as well.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. Okay, is there anyone from the audience that would like to come forward? Come on up. Derek, oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Derek, do you mind?
Seat right up here?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Teresa DeFranzo. Children are Jackie and Timmy Chianca.
Yep.
Like to confuse everybody with the names. Okay, so I am before you tonight. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to talk about next year's school calendar. And I apologize that I didn't do it when, I didn't know when you guys were talking about it, and I apologize for that so that we didn't have to revisit it. But I noticed that, so we have off that whole week that Christmas is, and then the following week, January 1st is a Wednesday, and then I noticed that the Thursday and the Friday, the 2nd and the 3rd, we're still not going back to school.
Right.
And my concern with that is, particularly this year with the way the weather was, and we did have the 5 built-in days, that my concern is the later we go in the year, and I mean no disrespect, we don't do as much at the very end. We're jumping on lockers, right? Right? This is fine, this is good. But I'm thinking, shouldn't we try to get in as many days as we can before MCAS, before, you know, some of these bigger testing things that come up, if we were to have another winter like last year, where we could take those 2 days and still be going to school, as opposed to just tacking them on at the end and possibly going to school till June 30th, where I think we can all agree, we're very lucky this year it's not super hot. If it's super hot, I just think we lose the attention of the students. The Pembroke is like, I can't even begin to believe how hot that building gets for the kids to be in. And I just don't think we accomplish as much late June as we would in January. So I was wondering if there was any way that the school committee could, is it too late to revisit the calendar for next year? To consider going to school those 2 days. So on the off chance, like I said, we have 5 days of, 5 or more snow days, we're not going to school till June 30th. When I will honestly say, if it were 90 degrees, I'd be picking my kids up at 11 and we'd be going to Salisbury.
I love your honesty.
I'm being
I
honest.
do, I love that.
It's like June 27th.
Yep.
I know grades are probably closed, and you don't need to watch a movie in school, which is sometimes what happens when it gets super hot at the end of the year.
Right. Well, what we can do is, we can ask the committee if they would like to reconsider, revisiting it at this time.
Well, is the other individual who wanted to speak the same subject?
No.
Oh,
I don't,
okay.
I think Teresa was the only one
Okay.
who asked to come.
I mean, is this something that the committee would like to
I mean,
revisit and, take another vote, or?
I mean, although I'm very sympathetic with wanting to end the school year as early as possible. And I think, when we put together the calendar, a lot of people have differing ideas, and the one thing everyone tends to agree on is that you want to end it as early as you can in June. However, we've already set the calendar, and and I'm not quite sure about the educational value of just 2 days too. That's not as great as, I'm concerned that people may have already made plans. I don't know what.
I think my sense is we've had this discussion and we deliberated this issue. So it's not as if we didn't take into consideration your very concerns. There were other issues that we were deliberating in conjunction. We would have to now dig through our memory banks and to look at what we did. But it does, my recollection is that we took all of these factors into consideration and didn't overlook your point.
So can I ask why you did decide to keep, everybody goes back to work January 2nd, back to school, like parents work, so now it's 2 more days of trying to find coverage if you have younger kids. So why was the decision made to not start on January 2nd like most things will be?
Well, I can just say to you that I had a concern when I saw the calendar in the beginning. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, wow, 2 weeks, that's a lot. The kids will be out, and I'm wondering how they will then jump back into it. And I know I voiced that concern that evening. I took into consideration what the administrators were, how they were feeling about it. And the fact that it's only gonna really be this year that this will be such a big deal, because next year it would be, it would be one day later, so opening up
You wouldn't come back on
We're
on a
just
Friday.
Friday.
Right.
So we
We
were thinking that
have
this was kind of a
these-
unique.
Yeah, it's a unique year, and there's also the issues with professional development that are, we had some unusual circumstances in the coming school year that are not typical of a school year. So, and one of them is the need for the additional
The
professional
half-days,
development, the
yeah.
half days that we have. So we weighed all of that and in our decision. I can't tell you why. My memory just doesn't serve me that well, why we came to the decision. But I can tell you that it was not we didn't just arbitrarily say that we took all of these things into consideration, and that they were, we went back and forth and we deliberated this calendar, and I think we talked
least
about
two
it at
meetings.
least 2 meetings, if not more.
Okay.
So it's not as though we didn't, it was on the agenda, we talked about it, and we didn't, it wasn't just somebody came in and said, I want 2 weeks at this time. It seemed to be what worked best, given all of the other conditions, all the other circumstances that we were considering at that moment.
Okay.
And our hope is that we get it out, as soon as possible to the parents, for situations like that, for
Right.
childcare and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
And people might be arranging to go places or to do
Yeah.
things or something like that.
I want to be one of those people.
I mean,
I'm not one of those people, but I want to be one of
I'm
them.
personally one of those people where I'm in favor of starting before
Labor Day.
Labor
Me
Day,
too.
but not in this calendar year because
Giving
of the way
people
the
an
days
entire year to
fall.
know that it would be
But,
happening.
if
Yeah.
the days fall right, I would be in favor of that, I agree to try to get out as early as possible, but with everything, there are many pieces to the puzzle, and with everything we considered, this is appeared to be the best solution to us.
I do think it's gonna be a unique situation this particular school year.
Okay.
Right.
And that
It won't
it'll be
happen
back
again.
on track and it won't feel like such a long break for the kids, if that's any consolation.
All right, yes. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
When do you
I appreciate
typically
you coming.
go over the calendar? Just so.
Well, I think we did it
That's a
in
good question.
March.
Generally, we do it in March.
Okay.
But if we're thinking of starting before, we usually make the decision about before or after Labor Day earlier than that.
That
Because we
people
do have an arrangement with the union that if we're going to try to change that we'd let them know around the 1st of January.
Okay.
So that, we made it actually in 2 parts. If I remember, we did the first and last day of school
First,
and then
revisited
a
the whole
month
thing.
or so later, we went and did all of the PD days and the holidays and all of that. And there were 2 meetings in March. And I think you adopted it in the end, either the last March meeting or the beginning of April.
Yeah, I think March stands out for me.
Okay.
And I do want to say thank you for showing up
Yeah,
to talk about this,
exactly.
because I do remember part of the conversation is we're making a decision for the town without any input from the town, and how hard that is.
No, and that's why I apologize for not knowing when you were
Yeah.
talking about it before. So that's
Yeah.
why next year I would
So-
know.
Right.
Come to that
So
meeting in
would
March
be-
or
Right.
or whenever.
We
We'd
will-
Love to have you.
I will
Absolutely.
remember that you were here with that concern. I can
Yes.
guarantee that, and that will become part of the conversation when we do this again. But anybody that has concerns about things like this, it just helps so much if they show up when, and anything we can do to get that information out to people who'd be interested, so that they do know. I'm so pleased you even found the calendar for next year and are here to comment on it,
Oh,
because
thank
that
you.
really helps us to do our job better.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Tristan.
Thank you.
Can I leave like Cole?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
stay.
Stay for the whole meeting.
Come on and stay. Okay, we have another audience member from the public for our audience.
Derek Jones.
Is your little,
You want to come up, Julia? You
All right,
can
you're
sit up with
coming too?
Dad if you want.
I didn't bring her on purpose. She just happened to be with me tonight because Mom and the other one had to go to karate.
Oh, that can happen.
She came up the stairwell and she's like, I remember coming up here. I was like,
Yeah,
8 years ago.
8 years ago. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Derek Jones. This is my daughter, Julia. I'm here basically just to add, and I'll be as quick as I can. I'm just here to basically ask permission to provide the staff at the schools with a solicitation document asking for donations to the PAMAS Challenge Bike Ride, which is a bike-a-thon I do every year. This year will be my 7th year consecutively, and This one here is the one who inspired me to do it to begin with. She was diagnosed with neuroblastoma at 6 months. Cured on her, she was deemed cured on her 4th birthday, day before her
Yeah.
fourth birthday. So I feel like this is the least I could do to give back, is to be part of that bike-a-thon and help raise funds for cancer patients. And it's basically the PMS Challenge is an organization that puts on a bike-a-thon every year since 1980, and 100% of the donations go directly to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Jimmy Fund. And that's basically it. I have the solicitation document here if you want to see it.
Yeah, I think we
have
put a
copies
copy
of all
in for them.
Okay, great.
So-
Okay, great.
Now, how far do you go?
There's 9 routes. I do it's 2-day. I do the 2-day route. The longest route is 190 miles. I was doing that up until last year because the routes are different and the cities are different. 2 years ago, it ended up being a nightmare trying to leave Provincetown in the pouring rain and the traffic. It took us like 4.5 hours to get back up this way. So I do a different route, but it's like 168 miles. It's the second longest route. So yeah, but it's the least I could do to give back. So
That's wonderful. And you have done this in the past, you've solicited in the past.
I have, yes. When I was a school resource officer, I did once. Came before the board and asked permission, and yeah, it's my 7th year doing it. Now, every year for the past 5 years, I've been riding in honor of a current pediatric cancer patient, and this will be my 3rd year in a row riding in honor of a Georgetown resident, McKinley Rose Nicholas. She just turned 4 recently, so Team Mickey is the name of the team. So
That's great. That's great. And I've seen her around a lot
yes,
lately,
yes,
so that's good news.
yes, she's doing very well.
That's
Oh,
great.
good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear
I
that.
feel like it's working.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think what you do is amazing, just to, I mean, that's a lot on your body to do that, a lot of, training and everything else that goes into it, but it is for a great cause.
You're
So
absolutely
we
right.
appreciate you doing that, because I'm sure I think all of us have been touched, probably by cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it is the donations that help. Does anyone have any questions for him?
Easy.
It's terrific.
Good luck. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
then
it.
I just want to, the chair will make, do I have to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay, you usually write it down for me.
I did,
that's
right
why.
here. To approve the, to approve the distribution. You're there.
Okay, the chair will make a motion to approve distribution of the Pan Mass Challenge flyer as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, guys. Really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Derek. Nice to see you again, Julia.
I just thought of one more question.
Yes.
If somebody wants to contribute and they don't get this flyer, how can they do that?
Well, actually, I've been in touch with the Georgetown Record, and he's going to get back to me next week, and
Oh, good.
there'll be an article in the paper, too.
Okay, great. That's
great.
Good luck.
Wonderful. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move along to the superintendent's
Nope,
report.
the spring sports summary.
Oh, spring sports.
Chris
Chris is
DeFranco
here.
wants to
Hi,
be able to
Chris.
leave with the others.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris.
All right, Chris. Good
Okay.
evening.
Oh, I see him now.
There we go.
Okay,
Okay, so
thank
Chris
you
has
for
a-
this. This was great. You summarized it
Yeah.
perfectly.
Okay.
So we had a very successful spring, whether you measure it by state tournament bids, which 3 out of our 4 teams had. Participation numbers, we had 171 students participating in athletics in the spring. A lot of individual awards, multiple all-league players. We had a player of the year in baseball, which is basically league MVP, in Tom Pingree. Ryan Bahar actually made all states in track and field with our Ipswich co-op, which, as we know, is going away. But I have a strong lead on another school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
That's great. It's just a matter of getting approved by the state,
Yes.
so I can't really say who it is yet, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a lot of individual success and team success. The kids were really enthusiastic. At the end of the year, I didn't put this in the report, but I will let you guys know, we're going to do another banner ceremony. We did that last year, and basically any championship that was won during the season, we raised. This year we have 3. Cheerleading won the Division 4 North title. And then our Ipswich, Georgetown grandfathered co-op kids, in the indoor track season, the boys won the Cape Ann League and the girls won the Cape Ann League.
Oh, excellent.
And we're also putting up a special, or we're adding to our basketball banner, the 1,000 Point Club. Kristen Hogan's going to be entering,
great.
so she'll be hoisting that one up. So,
Wow, that's good.
so
Do you know when that's
yep.
gonna be?
So it's the last day of school, June 26th, at 10:40 a.m. So the last 20 minutes of school will be a little pep rally. So it's a tradition we started last year, and I think the kids liked it, and
For sure.
we're doing it again.
I wonder if the seniors will come back for it.
I hope so. I really hope Kristen
They're on
comes
the
back.
teams, I bet they will.
Some
Yeah.
did last year.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
And there's some good photo ops, and they get to take a picture with their banner, so it's kind of neat.
That's great.
Yeah. Some of our concerns, you can see softball numbers are pretty low. That's been consistent for the last probably 3 or 4 years. We're always teetering on that, can we run a JV team or not? And I know once the JV team goes away, eventually the program's going to fall
Yeah,
apart.
it's true.
And we don't want that to happen. So we really, we're looking for creative ways to get more kids playing softball at a younger age. The coach is going to offer some clinics to the youth in the summer and early spring. So we might be able to get some enthusiasm behind the sport because it's a fun sport to watch. If you saw any of their games this year, they were really, really intense and they played the game really well. So I'd hate to see that program go.
Right.
So field space was a little difficult. And it's going to get more difficult next year, as we know, with the turf field coming in. We have some plans in place temporarily. We're going to have to move our JV baseball team because they're not going to have a field to practice or play on. But we've got some ideas, and those will continue to come to fruition, I'm sure. We definitely, at the end of the year, as Joan knows, we had trouble, with our budget. Our numbers actually weren't horrible, but we still have money that's owed. And from user fees. So we offer installment plans, and oftentimes the first installment comes in, and then the second and third don't, and we have to chase people down. So we need to really tighten that up. Whether it's if you miss payments, you can't do
can't
it
play
again.
practice
Yeah,
or
but you can't
play.
do the installment plan either again. So I think that's
yeah,
going to be
that's
important.
true. I mean, when we first talked about that, that what the conditions were that the timeline was pretty tight from payment 1, 2, and
Yep.
3. So you didn't get to the end of the season
Right.
and still owe money.
Yeah.
If you owed money, then it was kind of like, well, until you pay, you can't play. And the purpose of that was to really help people budget for it. So you didn't have to come up with the whole user fee in one fell swoop.
So what is it? It's 3 installments?
Yes.
It's broken
You
into
can-
3.
Right.
And sometimes if someone has a hardship, we can spread it out even more.
Yeah,
We've done
yeah, and
6
they have.
installments for some people, and
But
if people don't pay and take advantage of the system, it
Right.
really hurts us.
We are looking into, and I've discussed it with Margaret a little bit, to adding online payments for
Right.
any of our fees. And so sometimes if people have access to their credit card, they don't have to come up with the cash and they can pay their credit card over a longer period of time than
Right.
they can.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yes.
So
That's a great idea.
we'll work together,
That'd be great.
with the bank that we currently use for I think it's the middle high school is on the food services can
Right.
pay for their
I've
lunches
been-
that way, so
I've
we're
been in
looking
favor
into
of
that.
that for a long time. It's-
The only concern that I have with the food service, if you're looking at the same, is, and I didn't look at it this year, but I know last year they only took MasterCard,
Oh, really?
which I thought was odd. They didn't
Hmm.
take Visa.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that we clarify that before we sign with
Yeah,
anybody.
they only took
Yeah,
MasterCard.
you need to be as flexible as possible.
Yeah.
And honestly, Chris, I didn't know that was such an issue, but sometimes putting it into our office
Yep.
rather than your office,
Yeah, Joanne does a great job, Joanne Sherman.
right, but
she-
sometimes
she
taking it
feels
out of the
like-
athletic office and putting it in the business office makes it
Yeah.
a little bit more real for a
Yeah.
parent to get a phone call, so.
Well,
But it-
and she's a parent, and it
Yeah,
must
so
be
it's awkward
difficult for
sometimes,
her.
yeah.
It is hard because, you don't wanna say to the child,
No.
you can't play, but sometimes that's what makes the
Well,
difference,
the food
right?
services people don't have a problem saying,
I-
you owe $15, go home and get, We should have them calling them. I don't know.
Well, I see it both ways. I do understand it, but, it's just, sometimes people take advantage sometimes of, I know you're not gonna let my kid play and then you're gonna have to chase us. We used to have the same problem in preschool, where we'd have people who owed quite a bit of money and yet the child still stayed. And then the following year, we'd have to say, you can't re-enroll, until you, but sometimes it just gets to the point where it's just too much. And then the parent digs a hole and they can't get themselves out of it. So I think, we do them a favor sometimes if we say, this is only as far as we're willing to let you go.
Yes, indeed.
So I
Absolutely.
think when we do our fall signups, that's something we're just gonna put in writing, that if
Yeah.
you're on the installment plan, if it's not paid by the 15th of the month, they don't play. And the coaches
That
have to be
makes sense.
on board with it too, which it's tough for the tell coach too. Your kid can't play because the parent.
I know, I
But-
know, and you're punishing the child
Right.
sometimes. But kids at the high school level can do some things to help themselves
Yeah,
out.
that's
I'd
true.
be saying to my son, you need to help contribute. If it's if it's that much of a hardship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then and with all the fundraisers that go on, sometimes you can do fundraisers where a certain percentage of the funds can go, but you sell a box of chocolate and you sell 50% of it goes to the company and 50% of it goes toward your user fee. I mean, maybe there are some creative things we can think of, because I do think that the children, if it's a hardship for the family, the children,
Sure.
should have some, interest in helping out if it's important enough.
Along those lines, for the spring we had 7 free and 3 reduced lunches. And our family cap, we always examine that at the end of the year. It's usually the spring when families start to hit the $1,500 cap. There were 5 athletes, so $1,230 in revenue was saved by those families by hitting the cap. So, fall sports, we're going to be starting up on our sign-up night's going to be Wednesday, August 7th, 6 o'clock to meet
Wednesday,
with coaches. And 6:30 will be the sign-ups. And then the actual tryouts for football, it's going to be August 19th, which is a Monday. They're double sessions. Cheerleading will start that day as well. And then all other sports will start on August 22nd, the Thursday. And I think, I was looking at the schedule, I believe soccer is actually opening up their season before school starts, which is,
Oh, really?
I don't think I've
August
ever had that happen.
21st, is it?
Well, their actual first game is before the first day of school.
Oh, okay.
So,
Wow. Okay.
It's funny just the way that it all works. But yeah, we're looking forward to a great fall season. I've talked to all the fall coaches, and they're all pretty much lined up, and we're excited.
Chris, is there any thought to seeing if you could switch the Thanksgiving, so next year have it be away again, and then the following year's the year the turf field's gonna be there, then have it be home?
It's
Because
tough, yeah.
it just would be nice to have the first year that the turf is available to have the game be on turf. And it's so hard at Thanksgiving that the field is usually a disaster. And
I think what would be more, I know
I don't know if it's possible,
No,
but
I've talked to the Manchester AD about that. She's actually on vacation that week because
Oh.
basically she planned, I don't have to be here this week.
I see.
However, we might be able to flip-flop the next year,
Mm-hmm.
and basically trade,
do two.
2 in a row at Manchester after. If
Yeah.
That might be a strong possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be nice to have
That'd
it
be great.
on the new field.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the Manchester people would be very happy to come and play on the turf field, because every year that we
They
have
already
it
have
here, they comment,
They're used to
the
the turf.
people in the stands comment on just like the quality of the condition of the field, and it's not because we haven't put the effort into trying to make it the best it can be. It's just not in good shape usually by Thanksgiving after we've played on it through the season.
Right.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Chris.
it looks great. Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
putting that together.
Thank you, Chris.
Have a good summer.
You as well.
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna move along to the superintendent's report.
Right, and, so, I would just be very quick. I wrote for your benefit the information about the senior activities. I don't think I need to, go into detail about those unless you have any particular questions about them. But, again, every year it's my pleasure to be part of, attending and get invited by the kids and to attend, the range of things. There's some very, very nice traditions in Georgetown, and because it's a small school, it's a very, family-oriented feeling, and it's just really, it's just great every year. So, just wanted you to know about the senior activities, especially since many of you don't have children at that age yet. So it's nice to know what's coming up. And then I think the majority of the time that tonight I'd like to have you spend is with the schools regarding the school and department report. So that's why I'm keeping my comments tonight to be very brief and just I defer, I guess, to move on to the school reports.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will move along to Principals Tanner and Marv for the elementary handbook and the improvement plans.
Now, there was something on your table. What is that? Here. Okay. Is that an addition?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Margaret. And Donna?
Dr. Tanner and I take turns every other year updating the handbook. This year it's my turn, so I'm going to be reporting the changes. And this year, the changes are really just updates, nothing major. So starting with the cover and the letter on page 4, I would just like to update the dates to reflect that it will be for the 2013-2014 school year. I would like to add a page 5 to add your names and the superintendent's name. I noticed that we don't have anywhere listed Superintendent Carol Jacobs, and also I think it would be nice to have school committee members listed as well. So I'm requesting to add that. On page 13, under safety and security, we would like to add activities inside and outside the school are monitored at all times by video surveillance. We have that sign outside of both of our schools, and I think it's important that people know when they come in, they are going to be videoed, or recorded. Mr. Belanger always corrects this, it's not video. On page 15, we're going to change lunch program to breakfast and lunch program, because we do offer breakfast at Pearlie at our extended day program, and also just anybody can get breakfast. And we've been talking about really trying to push that and expand breakfast, so we want to make sure that parents know that breakfast is available. On page 15,
Do you have breakfast at Pembroke?
We do.
okay, so, sorry, we have it as a part of our extended day also. So I think maybe some of the children that are from Pembroke, they might eat breakfast early and then head over to Pembroke. And then we both also then have breakfast for children that come but are not part of extended day.
Okay.
Then on page 15, add Pearlie to the list of schools offering breakfast. So it will say breakfast, Pearlie, Pembroke, and Middle High School. And then on page 28, and this is what was on the table when you came in, that under the dress code, there were some redundancies in the paragraphs, and I think just maybe over the years of updating, and when we send this out for printing, maybe they just doubled or something. So we're just cleaning up the language and making sure that it's clear. That's it.
All right. Thank you for going over those.
The only question that I have is on the safety and security section. Are there any legal issues with making it policy? And I don't know. Are there any legal issues with making it policy in writing that the area is going to be completely covered by video, and whether it is completely covered or not completely covered, that can set up down the line if something were to happen, problem. The fact that it's put in writing that we are doing it completely, I guess the question is, are we covering it?
Well,
Maybe I misunderstood.
could you tell me again? I've now got it in my.
On page 13.
Yes, but what's the language? that
The
Bob's
language
questioning?
is activities inside and outside the school are monitored at all times by video surveillance.
Okay. And you're wondering,
I was just wondering if there were any legal issues associated
like whether or
with
not
the
you can
fact-
do it?
Not that you can do it, but the fact that you have said and put in writing that you are doing it, that in fact, if something happens and you don't do it,
Well, my understanding, Rob, if I can just say, I think it's actually the opposite. I think that if you are recording, you have to tell people
Yeah,
that you
you
are.
definitely have to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I think we just want people to know that when you come into the school, you are going to be recorded.
and I get that part. I'm just thinking of the part of someone thinking that, okay, the school is covered, so I'm safe.
Right, you're thinking if
Something-
there's an activity that happens and we don't act on it because
And-
it's
But we
been
don't catch it.
Because
recorded.
we don't catch it.
Right.
That we have said we are monitoring it all, and by putting it in writing.
Well,
I
you know
don't-
what?
know.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that when we talked to Naomi about this earlier, she said if you have surveillance, you should notify people you have surveillance.
Sure.
Now, the scenario you're talking about is not one we discussed.
And I just thought of it, I'm sorry for not bringing it up sooner.
No, that's all right. So I think maybe I probably wouldn't call her about this particular issue, but if I have a call into her, another point if you want, I'd be more than happy to ask that question.
Sure.
So it's more of an issue of if people then get sort of this sense of security, and then if for maybe the camera's broken or it's not on and something happens and then there's no ability to verify that something happened. Because we said we had it, would that be a problem for us? Okay, I can ask that question. I think Margaret's right. I think more what we were looking at is, if you see something and then you call somebody's attention to it and then they say, you didn't tell us that we were being videoed, that was more the liability we were wondering about. Okay, I'll put that down as something to look into.
What time does breakfast start? Does it say?
That's a good idea too. Is it in there? What
For the
time it
program
starts?
or for the kids that aren't in the
I don't think it is
program?
in there.
Program for any kids who want
believe
breakfast?
it
Well, we talked about
starts
that
at
before.
8:15.
It's 8:15, that's when breakfast is first available.
I think it might end at 8:15, because I remember
That's when
my
ours
little one
starts.
saying, I gotta get in there because at 8:15, and so I think because then the kids go outside at 8:20.
Yeah, well, kids aren't supposed to be dropped off before 8, so the soonest it would start would be 8.
Right, but
But it's not, doesn't seem like it's open all the time. But some kids do eat breakfast, and 'cause they're in there eating when the kids are outside playing, I know that. It's not many kids, but they do.
yeah, I don't
At
think
Pearlie,
there's
it is
many.
8.
I think it's probably when the kitchen person gets in and
But if you
probably how it
want
works.
more kids to eat breakfast, they need
Yeah.
to be clear on what
What
time
time.
they
That's a
can
good
go
We can
and
add, we can
get
add that
breakfast.
And I have heard it's a good breakfast.
Cinnamon toast stand.
Yeah.
Jason knows this.
We
We're gonna add some
we
new
would
offerings
prefer
in the
that
fall.
there be additional offerings.
We
That's
spoke, Margaret and I met today with the food service director, and there'll be new offerings in the fall, and they'll be publicized.
Oh, great,
right. Yes.
Oh, good.
great.
Very good.
Very good.
All right, great.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion at the end, like I did last time, if that's okay with everybody, to approve. Is that okay?
To prove what, Bobby, I'm sorry.
I'll do the improvement plan, the Pearlie
We
and
probably
the
should do it
Pembroke.
individually,
You think
I would
so?
suggest, yeah, because they're two distinctly different agenda items.
Okay, the middle high
I think when
school.
you did it before, you had the two
Middle high
two
school.
principles,
Yeah,
that
okay.
made sense to cluster them, but
Okay.
in this case, they're really two different things.
Okay,
If you don't mind, probably a separate motion. would be
okay,
better.
so we'll make,
Can I-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question. I'm back to the breakfast. I'm trying to imagine this breakfast.
Okay.
Because, I mean, at lunch, obviously, the children are supervised and they go to lunch in class. But thinking about like kindergartners and first graders, so would a parent just drop them off and then they would go by themselves to the breakfast? Or could a parent go and eat breakfast with them?
Well, what happens at the Pearlie, we have the two scenarios. If, we'll start with the extended day. So when children come to the extended day, there is a first breakfast, it's like the Hobbit, firsties, at around 7:20. So for the children that come and have the breakfast, they're in the extended day, and Ms. Ty would give them breakfast.
Okay.
But then if you are just not a part of the extended day and you just
Right.
want to come and have, your child would have breakfast, then again, you're dropped off, as you always are, which is always being monitored. And children come into the gym at 8:15, and then at 8:20, somebody comes to get them and takes them into the cafeteria.
Okay.
So we kind of congregate them, so if there are, 3 or 4 children, they would be together and then go in and eat together. So they're not straggling in, there's a time that they're
Right,
taking
so a
in.
whole group of them are going in
Yes,
together.
although it's a very small group at this point, but hoping to
Right.
expand. And then, when they finish eating, they go right outside with all the other children or back into the gym if it's not good weather.
Okay. All right. I understand. Thank you. It's, what is that?
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the changes to the elementary handbook as presented by Principals Mara and Tanner.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, ready for the handbook?
Yes.
The
Improvement
school improvement
plan.
plan? Okay, in your packet, I know you received the real school improvement plan and then my PowerPoint. So I just want to take a minute and just explain the cover. As I've done since I've gotten here, I've used a drawing for the cover. This is first grade drawing. And the art teacher, every year, in your packet, this would be the cover, Pam.
I'm seeing it, yes.
Does the drawings. She takes them outside, so they're actually looking at the school, they're observing shapes and the colors, and then using a drawing, they replicate. And I don't know whose drawing it is, I go through them and try to find one that will copy well. But all the drawings are on our website, so if you are a parent of a first grader, go into our website and now go into the art corner, and she has them looping, so there's a PowerPoint. And this year you can go into your child's class and find them. So I just want to make sure to point that out.
Good job, Colin.
It is.
They're awesome. They're really worth,
What's amazing about this picture, you said first grade?
yes.
I mean, they actually,
detail.
in the age of first grade, they've got the proportions relatively
Right. Yeah.
fixed. That's impressive.
It's really impressive.
Sometimes,
Like the windows?
Yeah, they've kept a relationship between the forms.
Yeah. when you give children assignments that is just one thing, draw a flower, draw a school, often you think how they're all going to be the same, it's a cookie cutter, and it is amazing how 101 children, there are 101 different drawings. And so it's always fascinating to do that with the same assignment and to have that individuality, so it's great. So I just want to take a minute, I promise I won't be too long, but I just want to take a minute and review our 2012-2013 goals, just to see where we were before we move on. So goal 1 was our literacy goal. Our goal was to have 80% proficiency at or above on Dibble's assessment, and also reading 80% or above as evidenced by Faunis and Pinnell. So some of the things over the past 2 years that we've done are to create a 90-minute literacy block. We are using Foundation's phonics program with Fidelity, and we've had professional development in that area. We've refined our literacy instruction with the help of our literacy coach. So refining reading groups and how we form those groups. We have bi-monthly data team meetings. We have grade level meetings also with our literacy tutors looking at data. We are providing interventions for children at the beginning of the year who test below 80%, and then we are constantly monitoring every 2 weeks, again, looking at that data and forming groups around that data. We are, again, refining our readers workshop and aligning it to the standards and making sure that we are linking it, again, to the Common Core standards. And we've collaborated with the Georgetown Public Library to really focus on the summer reading program. And then last year, we started Atlas Curriculum, which is putting in our curriculum, and again, as a way to make sure we are aligning with the standards and also that we don't have any holes in our curriculum. Goal 2 was by the end of the 2012-2013 school year, students will advance in their writing proficiency. So as you know, across the district, that was a goal among all the schools to really focus on the writing. So toward that goal, at our monthly meetings, we, in addition to looking at data, we looked at student writing at every meeting. And there was a study group to focus on conferring, helping children advance in their writing. We had school-wide celebrations of growth in writing. We had 2 authors come and as our cultural enrichment. And our curriculum director, Julie DeRoche, started a K-12 English Language Arts committee to help align the curriculum. And then again, through Atlas curriculum, that aligned our writing. Goal 3 was by the end of 2012-2013, all students will reach grade level in math, as evidenced through everyday math assessments. And toward that goal, we developed a 60-minute math block. We looked at math unit tests, and also were able to have a math interventionist provide intervention for children who were not at that 80%. We adopted Aspen's assessment, which I have talked about as being, it's not curriculum related, but just gives a snapshot into a child's numeracy. And just like in Dibbles, it lets us know how quickly children can think about phonics. The Aspens lets us see how quickly they can think about numbers and math. So again, it's not specific to a curriculum, but it gives us our first indication of how much math sense a child has. So we started using that. Again, aligning the curriculum with the Common Core standards. We had several meetings, K-5 collaboration, so between both schools, talking about math and the everyday math. We started to use math exemplars. At Pembroke, they do use math exemplars to, again, making sure that children know how to respond to a prompt in math. So we identified exemplars and then looked at the rubrics and rewrote them to the standards to making sure that we were, again, using the standards as our rubrics. And then Atlas curriculum. Then goal 4 was to promote awareness and respect as a framework for intervention and prevention of bullying and increase students' problem-solving abilities and social skills. We continued offering bully-proofing curriculum. This year we called it Friendship and not Bully Class. And that is taught by Ellen Bazillion.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We had professional development with Dr. Elizabeth Englander from Bridgewater State University, who is very well known in her work on bullying, has done research for 25 years. So that was good. We have monthly community gatherings, and the way we run our gatherings is like the responsive classroom. So we replicate in the large what we do in the small. Continue with responsive classroom. We have social skills groups as a way to help some children socialize and learn how to make friends and get along. And then we had also conducted a winter survey and had a phenomenal 53% response rate, which was 137 responses online. So great results.
Wow.
And then goal 5 was to increase and improve parent communication and involvement in relationship to topics identified on the school council parent survey. And so I know district-wide, improving the website was one of those goals, and we've done that obviously on our site. I had written a principal's blog that really started morphing away from a blog, and then I was using the parent reps to send out information through room parents so that people were getting information right through their email. And I think next year I'm going to refine that. It was indicated as the way people want to get information, so we'll do that. We had parent evenings and workshops on foundations. We had a balanced literacy overview, and then a workshop, The Secret to Your Child's Success. Of course, our parent information night at the beginning of the year is also another way to update parents. Then our report cards are revised, standards-based, so that was a way to keep parents informed. And then again, our phenomenal rate on our parent survey. So that was last year. And trying to get this big. Oh. There we go. So our year-end data, in kindergarten, our DIBELS showed 93 students were tested, 79% met benchmark, and you can see 20 students were below benchmark. In Fountas and Pinnell, 93 students were tested, and 82% are reading at or above benchmark, with 17 were below. In everyday math, 94 students were assessed. In kindergarten, the assessments are observation. They're not paper and pencil, so teachers are individually looking at student performance and then tracking their assessment that way. 66 are at or above, with 32 students below. The Aspens, and again, this just shows us how quickly children have no numeracy, and 93 were tested, 66 met the benchmark, with 32 students below. Year end for grade 1, DIBELS, 101 students were tested, 79% met benchmark. Fountas and Pinnell, 101 students tested, and 91% are reading at or above grade level. I just want everyone to sit with that for a minute. And then our math for grade 1, everyday math assessments, 100 students were assessed, 89 were at or above grade level. And then in the Aspens, 100 tested and 69% met benchmark. So when we're looking at where do we go from here? Our first goal for the 2013-2014 school improvement plan, again, is a district goal, and all the schools have this as a goal, so I won't go through it again, but this is where by June 2015, we want all teachers and administrators to have completed the 5-step evaluation cycle and identify actions within an educator plan to improve professional practice and student learning. Goal 2, by June 2015, 100% of educators will identify RTI, and this is the response to intervention, tiered instruction for the lowest achieving 20% of students as measured by district-determined measures. So this is really a two-pronged goal. We can see through the data that some children are not at 80%. In literacy, they are, and we're thrilled with the results. It's a little bit below in DIBELS, which again is the automaticity. And math, you can see it's a little bit lower, and sorry, I'll have to have my back to you. But now that we have refined our instruction, now we really need to start looking at why are 20%, or in the case of literacy, fewer than 20%, not meeting the benchmark. And so there's two parts to that. One is determining the district-determined measures, which will happen again across the district, and that means just identifying what kind of assessments we want to use to get at the information of how children are learning. And then with that information, then it is several steps, and again in your packet you have the complete SIP, and this is just a brief overview. But we want to look at, first of all, identifying what are our tiers. How are we going to provide that intervention? We want to continue to identify the gaps between, again, regular ed and special ed. We are continuing to look at those, we call it the universal instruction. What should happen for every child in the classroom, so that, because we want to make sure that every child has access to that, and then you refine your instruction from there. We want to make sure that we have research-based strategies for intervention. So again, for maybe 15 to 20%, they may just need some intervention that we provide now through our literacy coaches. But there might be 5% of students that need something a little bit more intensive. So we need to make sure that we're using research-based intervention for that. So then with our district-determined measures, again, we want to continue to assess that data. Design a schedule for when students will receive their intervention, and then continue to progress monitor and form groups based on that. Goal 3, and again, this is a joint goal between Dr. Tanner and Pembroke and Pearlie. By fall 2015, the Pearlie and Pembroke schools will be integrated and share common vision of teaching and learning as evidenced by curriculum and program structures and ongoing collaboration. So we are looking, 2 years sounds like it's a long way away for the new school, but there are so many plans that need to happen before that. So this summer, the first goal is to develop a plan. What's the plan for the plan? So we will.
Place to start?
Exactly. Start as the first step. So that will be what we'll do. And then over the next couple years, the plan, really it's two-pronged. It's looking at curricula and programs, and then it's looking at the culture and the people, and wanting to make sure that we're aligning not only the curricula, but also the beliefs and the traditions, and that we're just combining both schools so that it's a very fluid transition when the children actually move over. Goal 4, by June 2014, students will advance in their writing proficiency to meet grade level expectations as defined by the Massachusetts English Language Arts Literacy Frameworks as evidenced through writing rubrics. And this is actually the second year of that goal. Last year, this was on the SIP. It was the first year of that. And we know that you really want to give goals more than 1 year. You have 1 year to get going, and then you refine it in that second year. So this coming year, now we will have our rubrics that are aligned to the standards, and we will be using the rubrics to assess. And then we'll continue our professional development and continue in the vertical teams to assess the writing. And by June 2015, through technology, 100% of parents will be aware of Pearlie School activities, programs, procedures, and policies, and results will be tracked through data collection. And this sounds like it might be a lofty goal, but when we look at the results that we had through our survey, we really want to just make sure that parents are aware. Now, they may, again, you want to get parents to it. You can't always control what they do with that, but we just want to make sure that parents have access to that information. And one thing that we're really excited about doing is creating webcasts of this information, because over the past 3 years we've learned it's hard for families to get out in the evening or come to events, and we've tried all different times of the day or the night, and it's hard, and especially at the Pearlie, when the population is young children, it's even harder for parents to get out. And in our survey, it was indicated that parents would love to receive the information through the webcast. So we have lots of great things planned, and we're going to be producing our first webcast this summer. And my plan is to hopefully be able to show it at Parent Information Night in September.
Excellent, that's great, excellent.
I know, that does sound good, doesn't it?
It does.
That's it.
It's good that you have that solid data on how parents want to receive information. That's
It was
very
great.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, sometimes you have to ask the right question, and I think just kind of getting it, for a couple of years, we were asking what do parents want to see, and we would provide that, but that really, it wasn't as much as what they want, but how they want to get it.
Exactly. Yes.
Margaret, just a couple of questions. So on 212-213 goals, and I know that was last year, and so where on goal 2, where it talks about students will continue to advance in their writing proficiency. And then when I go back and I look at the other goals and I remember, and then I read again, and it says in the other goals, 1 and 3, it says, for example, will read at grade level. How going forward, and I know this is 212-213, but going forward, how do you measure students will continue to advance in their writing proficiency? What is this? What's a success? What's not a success?
What's the measure?
Well, the measure will be the rubrics. Again, the new standards have benchmarks, what we want children to be able to do at the end of the year as far as their writing proficiency. So that's basically what we've done in the past couple of years. We're refining instruction to make sure that we're teaching that, but that is the missing link. Well, how do you know they're getting it? So we've worked with Julie DeRoche, our curriculum director, to look at those rubrics that helps us assess. And again, it's not an exact science like a standardized test, because there's still that element of you have to look at the writing and then figure out where it closest fits the rubrics. But that happens with experience, it happens with repetition, and that's why this year we were constantly looking at the writing and choosing, what would we consider to be above standard, what is below, and then that's how you get good at that kind of work. So
If you were to go to the celebration of growth, one of the things you would see is that each student would have like kind of a portfolio, a writing notebook, a writer's notebook. And one of the things that was really neat to see is, so let's say one of the standards is students will use capital letters to begin sentences, right? So you'd be able to look through their writing and see that most kids in September would not necessarily have that down. But through instruction and experience with reading and doing writing and getting, conferencing, conferring, all of those things, when you start looking at the students' writing now, you're like, wow, they got that, So to me, the best way to measure it is to actually just look at a portfolio of student work, because it is quite amazing, particularly for those younger kids, to see how much they grow. And honestly, the teachers and the instructors come a long way. I remember when I first came here and we talked about writing in Pearly, teachers would say, the first grade kids would start writing in kindergarten. In first grade, like in January, right? They'd be writing in a journal. Now they write from day one in kindergarten, and the teachers have just really done so many great things in their own modeling and shared charts, and it's just amazing to see. But that's how you measure it, Rob. You take a look at really looking at the writing.
You remember the poems that Mrs. Beacon's class brought.
Yes.
And they were just
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah.
They were fabulous.
But you could, when Margaret talked about a rubric, usually the rubric is like 4 is advanced, 3 is, so they show different descriptors. And so you might look at the number of students. If 3 is where you want kids to be, in September, the number of kids that are scoring a 3 on a rubric. And then in June, the number of kids that are scoring a 3 on the rubric. That's a quantitative way you could track it, but the best way to track performance improvement is by looking at the samples of the work.
And both of those are happening, or
Right,
will be,
right. And that's a lot of the work Julie's doing. The vertical teams are establishing those benchmarks, getting a consistent rubric, so we don't have different teachers picking and choosing certain rubrics. We'll have that all standardized. But that takes time, because you need a lot of participation from teachers. You need people to be looking vertically and horizontally at the same time.
And if I could just add another component of that, and just as we had started to do with the math exemplars as well, to do it blind, so that you're putting papers in the middle of the table and you're taking, so you don't necessarily know what student it is, and that's a part of the challenge and the fun. But it's similar to the way MCAS is scored. It's similar to the way any of the teacher tests are. There are real people that are reading those essays and having to make that decision. So, it does take practice, but it does show the growth. So.
And then there were 2 others. Just I'm not an educator, and so this would just be helpful to me and my
Okay.
terrible memory.
Okay.
That when I see Dibbles and Pinnell assessment and Aspens, if there was a little in parentheses, a reminder of
Thank
what
you,
it
Rob.
is,
That is always a good
that would
reminder.
be really helpful to me, because I have a terrible memory. And then the other was really on goal 3, the fall of 2015, Pearlie Pembroke.
The new goal?
So,
The new goal?
Yeah, the new goals, and I my ears perked up when I heard the word culture, and so how do you, with this school that's being designed? Question 1, I've got my building committee hat on now. I think maybe I shouldn't, but are you comfortable with the form? The form is definitely related to culture. They
Yeah,
can be
structure.
woven together.
Yeah.
Are you are you comfortable where that's going? Are you happy where that's going at this point in time?
Well,
that-
you've got I think we're comfortable that the grades are in a similar configuration in a certain area of the
Yeah.
school. I think we're comfortable with the fact that if it's gonna be 3 stories, that the grades that are together make sense. I think we're comfortable with the special education classrooms being integrated within the structure of the, you know, of the, where the instruction of the core instruction would be. I think, you know, we do have limits to where we can put things because of the location. I mean, I don't think we love where the playgrounds are necessarily located and the fact that there are 2 of them. I mean, there are certainly some compromises that are going to be made, but so it happens both ways, right? So
Yeah.
the design, you know, the program can inform the design, but sometimes we have to make the design inform the program. And I think there's gonna be some of that. I mean, the fact that we've been involved in the design at least, you know, all along, and the teachers have had a chance to participate, you know, that's been important. You know, we have a large cafeteria, which is a nice gathering space. It's nice and light and bright. We would have loved a slightly bigger gym, but we did get a slightly bigger gym. We needed a bigger gym than that. But, you know, I think what I think Margaret and Don are talking about, this whole culture issue, is I don't think anybody would disagree that we have 2 distinctly different schools. And while we've been working for a number of years now on pulling, you know, the commonalities together, like having responsive classroom, the way it's implemented in the schools may be different, right? There are certain traditions that each school has. And so our goal is to take the best of that in each place and figure out how do we navigate and negotiate a new shared culture that everybody, and we believe we need to start doing that. And we've been already starting to do that, but we believe we need to continue to do that for 2 years.
I think that's great.
And it really has to be purposeful and deliberate. And where are the places where the staffs need to get together and discuss certain things? Where are the places that we, you know, we have more agreement than not? And,
And
you know.
certainly be prepared for the surprises.
Oh, absolutely. And then we have the matter of the 6th grade coming too.
Well, I
So
think
that's
that's the biggest challenge of
that's
the first
another
years,
challenge we have to think
because
about as well, you know.
I can see how those 5th grade traditions
Yes.
are deeply settling
oh.
into the minds of a 2nd grader
Yes.
who's looking forward to 5th grade
Yeah.
as this big year, and
Yeah.
it's
It'll still be a big year, but it'll be 6th grade, it'll be bigger.
yeah. So I think, you know, especially for the ones who are in the school now,
Yeah.
and they're seeing the culture and they're taking on the culture, they're gonna have to do some adjusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exciting, though. Again, I
Yes.
came
It's
from
exciting.
It is
a
exciting.
pre-K to grade 6 before I came to Georgetown. And so I take those experiences and the way those traditions happened and the way the collaboration happened, and you see when the older kids are coming down, making the trek over to the primary wing to work with the kindergarten children. And so, you know, and those buddies that can't, you know, it's hard to happen at Pearlie. We do it. The 1st grade does get together with kindergarten and pre-K, and that's awesome. But when you really see a 4th grader working with a kindergartner, you know, that's the magic. So you have to be, as Carol said, you have to be purposeful about it, but I think it's exciting. So I think that excitement will carry through and children will get excited about it
And so
too.
the teachers coming over have to be,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be new for them. right?
Yes,
To be
yes,
able to
there's a lot of
welcome
new.
those older.
And I'm sure they have their reservations. I mean,
Yeah.
Pearlie's a wonderful school, and you know, you get comfortable there, and yeah, and it feels like it's going to somebody else's school. Pembroke is still Pembroke, and the Pembroke teachers are there. Even though we have to remember the Pembroke teachers are really not in their same school. That everything's new for them as well. I mean, everything's new for everybody, right? And so we want to understand the emotions that go with it and let people, you know, have those moments. And at the same time, we want to be thinking about how can we begin to establish some new opportunities for people to come together and make new colleagues and new friends. And I think it will be much easier for us to coordinate curriculum It'll be much easier for us to discuss assessments. It'll just be much easier in many ways once
Right,
we're
when
physically in one location. But it's a process,
Sure.
and it's not, always smooth. So,
Thank you.
it's important that they make it a goal so that all the teachers know and everybody knows we're all working on this together and it's gonna come together. Okay. Any
Thank you,
questions for Margaret? Okay. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.
Okay.
Stay here if you want.
Moral support.
As long as she doesn't ask any questions. You're okay. So, you want me to jump right in?
Yeah.
You're okay. So, first of all, I want to thank members of the School Advisory Council, Michelle Smith, Amy Purcell, Suzanne McDonald, Michelle Keenan, Jamie Hanson, Elizabeth Carroll, Sandy Mangino, and Monica McGinnis for their attending meetings on monthly meetings. And this plan that we're presenting tonight is a product of not just the School Advisory Council, but of the teachers. We spent a lot of time going back and forth with the teachers, making sure we're all have the same vision and goals in mind when we do this. So if you see on the front of our school improvement plan, we have snowshoeing, which was a huge undertaking this year. There were days we had snow this year, so we were very happy because we purchased them last year and didn't get to use them. But also, just give you a flavor of the fifth grade tradition. I think that we're talking about, we just had our fifth grade play,
Yeah.
Aristocats,
It's really fun.
which is just it's just a lot of fun for the kids, and I think they feel really good about what they accomplished together as a group. So that's just some highlights.
A lot
of
of
the,
work.
Yeah, it was fun, and Pearlie had a chance to come over and see it. So start off with our vision and core values. And back in 2008, we spent a year just kind of carving out our vision and core values, and the reason we did that is because we wanted to have a path about where we're going, about why we make the decisions we make when it comes to budget, when it comes to cuts, when it comes to goals, when it comes to our celebrations. And I think we know we're going to be transitioning to a new Pembroke, but this is something that the community put together back in 2008, and it still drives who we are and how we define ourselves as a community. So often you'll see in our goals tonight reflects the things that are important to us, and community is really important to us at Pembroke, and we always are trying to build a strong community where everybody feels welcome and everybody feels like they're part of something pretty special. I'm just going to go over quickly our accomplishments. I think one of the big accomplishments we all feel really good about, the staff is very excited about, is the addition of technology this year. We now have a mobile laptop, Apple laptop cart with 25 laptops. It's great to go into a second grade classroom and see every child at a desk with a laptop, and being able to, I'm sure they're going home telling mom and dad they want a laptop for Christmas, and an Apple laptop at that. But it's great to get the tool, and they're not inhibited by the fact of not having a mouse. They love the touch pad, and they're in second grade. So we're trying to, the goal was to try and put the computers in the classrooms and integrate with the teachers. That was the goal. So this computer wasn't seen as a special, something separate, but something that, a tool that enhances and makes our learning even better. So that's kind of the goal we're starting for next year. That's our hope and dream. But through that, we've been able to put a smart board in every classroom. And I have to say that there were no smart boards purchased by school budget. So to have that accomplishment next year, to have a smart board in every single classroom at Pembroke, through all various sources, GEF, PTA, various fundraisers, Square One Art, has just been, I think it's something that we celebrate, and I think the teachers feel really good about. And now our goal is to have a document camera in every classroom and create that kind of great teaching place. We also have an iPad cart that gets used a lot by the students and the teachers. We have 25 iPads that go around in the cart, and that's been great. In addition to that, we renovated our library this year. What we're finding in our library, because of the Nooks and the Kindles and so forth, we want to create a place that the library is seen as a place to get information, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be in the form of books. So we have 7 iMacs in the library now and a mobile smart board there. And we're teaching Big 6 and Little 3 research skills. But we want kids to see the library as a place to get information, not a place just to take out a book. And so we're trying to create that kind of atmosphere, and that's one of our going forward goals. This year we started with an instructional leadership team, which was a representative from every grade level and specialist area, and our coaches, literacy coach and math interventionist. It was a great team. The goal, the vision of the team was to kind of decide, what is the data telling us about our school? Where do we need to go next? How do we need to get better? And some of the big things that we did this year is we created intervention block in mathematics for grade 5, 6 weeks before MCAS, which we think we saw great benefits to doing that. So we were going to expand that next year. But the other thing that was really powerful for us, we did learning walks. So we freed up teachers to go through the school for an hour and visit everybody's classroom. And the goal was to try and find out what are the professional development opportunities that we have done that have stuck. So we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money on professional development over the years. What are the things that we never get a chance to go in other teachers' classrooms? I do. I see what happens every day, and they never get that luxury. But I think it was so exciting for them when they came back and said they can really see how in 3rd grade, how the writing builds to 5th grade. They can really see the continuum of the curriculum. And we met as a staff and we said, so what are the things that we know, we can see that are really, really part of who we are as a culture? The responsive classroom, the student work up, the student thinking up on anchor charts around the school, around the classrooms, the fact that everybody has classroom rules, the way we provide a nice meeting area to do. So we came back and we debriefed, and I think what it did is, Pembroke's been on this roller coaster of trying to climb that mountain of change for
That's
many
why I
years.
thought you picked the cover here, that you're climbing.
Yeah,
the
we're climbing the
mountain
journey,
over
and I think
over.
this year, for the first year, we felt like we have really, we've done a lot of change over the years, and we feel really good about the work we're doing. And so it was kind of a celebration, too, for us to kind of say, wow, what we're doing is really sticking, it's really happened. So what we've put us a goal in the next year is that everybody in the school is going to get that chance to do that learning walk at some time, a couple of times a year, because I think it's powerful when we can see each other's work. So I talked about the renovation, the subgroup, targeted intervention. We took our MCAS and we looked fine-tuned the students that were having difficulty in MCAS, and we provided an extra MCAS support in the morning time. We did use CAMs and STAMs and CARS and STARS. It's kind of like a MCAS, but it was predictable kind of text and predictable kind of math repetition. They prepared them for the kind of things that they're going to have to do in MCAS. And when I met with the special education staff, they really felt that helped the kids when they approach the test, because we don't really teach MCAS. We try not to, but we do believe our curriculum prepares kids to do well in MCAS. We feel really good about our school-wide meetings, whole school celebrations that we do every month. They're really part of who we are as a community, and they really are part of the things that we value and the things we really think the kids come to school. We want them to come to school and have fun. We also want them to come to school and learn, and then we try and combine those kind of so they're learning experiences for our kids. Safety and wellness with the new cameras this year. Pembroke was probably the most open of all the schools as far as not having a lot of security and a lot of buildings and up in the woods. So I think the addition of the cameras and the locks and giving teachers passes has really helped. And last thing for accomplishments, I can't thank the PTA and GEF enough for all they do for our school. All the technology and the additions that we have, with whether it be books to presentations to authors to things coming in, it's all because parents have worked hard to really help give those kids the extra things in our community. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is quickly go over our goals for the upcoming year. And what I did this year is, instead of having a goal we have MCAS at Pembroke in grades 3, 4, and 5. So rather than breaking it down to reading, writing, and math, we just decided that it would be better if we just talk about increasing student achievement and use reading, writing, and math as the benchmark. Because I think everything that's happening in those content areas is happening consistently. So one of our goals is to increase student achievement and support high academic learning environments that successfully balance content and pedagogy across all content areas. And we're going to use our MCAS. We always try and aim, our target is that 60% student growth percentile. That's where we want every child to grow 60% every year. And when we see that, if it's not a proficient and it's a needs improvement and grows 60%, we feel really good about that. And we'd like to improve 5% in each content area. We know that'll be a stretch this year, with our math scores are really high in 5th grade. We had 82% proficient in advanced, so, but we're going to keep plugging away. We really think we're doing the things that really help our kids be successful. So some of the goals underneath that would be, in each one of our units, we're doing a kind of a pre-assessment, a diagnostic assessment. We've been working on a little bit this year. We're going to continue next year. Before we teach the unit, we find out where kids are at. What do they need? Rather than we just go through the program and go through the lesson plans. And then what are the formative assessments we do in that unit that are really tied to these standards? And at the end, what is the summative assessment that doesn't necessarily target what we were taught, but more what are the standards our kids are expected to know and be able to do. So at each unit of study in reading, math, and writing, we have tied those to our units of study, and we want to make that clean, grades 2 to 5. I know 5th grade is pretty close, but grades 2 to 5, we want to make sure we have that all the way through. By 2015, we want to implement a response to invention model that utilizes data to monitor student progress. That's our hope, I think, for all of our schools in Georgetown. We're all reaching for that goal. And then our instructional leadership team continues to work closely to examine our school data, professional development, and really our schedule and structure. We met this past Tuesday to go over next year's schedule and what kind of specialists we're going to have, and how we can plan for the upcoming year. And that's really helpful for our special education teachers if they have the schedule ahead of time. So we really went back and said, does this schedule work for our kids? So that team has really becomes the leadership team in our school, and it's been a great addition. We want to do learning walks for all the staff next year. We want to implement daily and weekly conference notes in reading and writing. I think keeping that ongoing informal data on a regular basis is really important. So when we are going around working with kids, that we have notes about where kids are at, what they're doing, what feedback we gave them, where we're going next. As teachers, we want to keep that anecdotal data on a regular basis. Writers workshop, we still have to pay attention to next year as the MCAS shift. It's not just going to be personal narrative anymore, that we make sure that we have a good trajectory for our writing. So we have the narrative, opinion, persuasive, and then the informational, procedural writing. So we did have to shift some of our units. And what we're also noticing is because the rigor has increased in our writing units, we have to change in 5th grade. Because some of the things we're doing in 2nd and 3rd grade, we're doing in 5th now, but because we're doing them in 2nd and 3rd, we have to really up the ante a little bit in 5th grade, so we know that. And the last goal is kind of a district goal, is to adopt a universal screening tool for all content areas. That gives us kind of a benchmark of, do we have the right curriculum? Are we doing the right kind of teaching for our kids, and are we making sense in our instruction? Next goal is a goal that I feel strongly about, is our school community goal. So we want to get our parents involved, that they fill out their parent survey. We want to get 50% feedback, and then we want to get 80% positive feedback. I think my first year in Pembroke, we had a lot of feedback on our parent survey. But over the years, it's become less and less parents, filling out the parent survey. Now this year we did it hard copy, and we did it online. We tried it several different ways. I look at it as a positive that maybe people don't have things to, but we'd still like people to give us some feedback of things they'd like to see changed, or things, particularly, I think next year we'll probably get more because we have the new school coming, and I'm sure people have some words that they'd like to share, or things they'd like to see. One of the things we do before MCAS is we do this Spark, and it's Dr. Ratty's book has written about this whole concept of really increasing our movement and getting our blood flow and our heart rate up, and that really scientifically releases our brain to really think better and pay attention. So every time we have MCAS, we get the kids in the cafeteria, and we dance up a storm, and it puts everybody in a good mood. So we're playing great songs. Sometimes I play the oldies, and the kids will say, Dr. Tanner, that was a real old song. And then we'll play the new songs, and then I play the pontoon
the
boat.
new ones that are appropriate for kids.
Yes, and then we have to find the ones that are appropriate. But everybody leaves there feeling good as we go to MCAS. So one of the things that was suggested by school advisory is, why couldn't we do that once a week? Pick a Monday or whatever day of the week we do, and that morning we start in our classrooms, doing a little true music. So we've kind of tossed that idea out there, and everybody thinks, what? It puts everybody in a good mood with that music, and it gets our heart flowing. So let's try and do it once a week and make it our Spark Day during the school year. That's one of our goals. Second is our 5th grade student council has grown so big. When I first started, it was myself and Elizabeth Carroll. And what's happening, because our kids are so interested in doing so many different things that they give back, we're going to try and create a mentor, so where kids are assigned to one person, so they're more focused on what they need to accomplish, and they have a person to report to. So they're not always seeking out Elizabeth and myself, because I think I have 110 kids in student council. So trying to coordinate those kids.
Anybody who wants to be in student council can be.
They write an essay about how they're going to make a difference, and then they do different jobs, and sometimes they come up with their own jobs. We raised money for water in Africa. We've done all sorts of different projects this year. So we're going to give, like, Mike Walsh would be a mentor, and our music teacher would be a mentor, and so they are charged of 20 or 15, 20, and they would meet monthly with them, and we kind of collaborate on the things. So I think it would bring a little And we talked to our fifth graders about that. We've asked them to fill out a survey a couple of weeks ago, and we said, how do you think we can improve? And I said, one of the things I thought of, and they all agreed that would be great. They think that would be great to have a kind of a mentor. So, and the last goal in this is one community, one book. I wanted to share that with you. We haven't actually talked about it with our community yet, but it's one of our goals. Is something I've always wanted to do. Is this year we're going to ask as part of our reading, summer reading, not our only reading, but part of our summer reading is everybody in the school is going to read one book, and that book is going to be kind of fits into our values about who we are as a school community, but it's also going to be the kickoff to our school-wide meetings, and we'd like to do cross-grade level discussions on the book. And the book we chose this year, and it was done by the instructional leadership team and the literacy, is The 3 Questions. So parents, this is available in our library. It'll be available at the Georgetown Library, and we're also going to put it online. One of our fifth graders is going to read it online. We're trying to encourage parents to actually read with kids too, as part of this, encourage the family to get involved in discussions and see. It's more of a picture book with great illustrations, but has a great message behind it. And then we're going to use that as kind of a place to kick off in September, and we hope to have like little book groups with second, third, fourth, and fifth graders talking about the meaning of the book. There are also some activities that'll go along with it. There's one activity per grade level. Like what's important to you would maybe one of the activities. So it is something I'm really excited about, and the staff's really excited about too. So every teacher has a copy of the book, so staff, parents, and students will hopefully all have an opportunity to read that book, in addition to their other summer
I
reading.
love the idea. I think it's a great idea. It's one that's popular on college campuses in a
Yeah.
lot of places. So I think it also prepares the students as they go through. They get to college and they're having a one book program and they're like, oh, I did that in second grade. I think that you're building that connection.
Yeah.
In
And
a way
we think
that'll-
we picked a pretty good book. We are trying to get the author to come visit too. So that would be in January. We're hoping to have the author come. He's in New York. He's tough to get, but we've been emailing him back and forth to see if he actually come out.
That would be
That,
amazing.
that would really tie
Is
it
he
all together.
responding?
Not yet, but we're gonna keep plugging
Well, say
away.
if he's
I have one of
responding,
the
you're doing
kids
well.
send a letter to him.
Yeah, that's
There
what
you
we'll probably
go.
do, have some of
There
the
you
young
go.
That's a
kids.
good idea.
And then we have our goal to the Pearly Pembroke. I think, the transition plan that we're going to start a plan. It's kind of like when you're a principal and you come new to a district, you have an entry plan. Well, it's kind of our entry plan into building this whole new Pembroke facility is, figuring out what's that going to look like. So this is the same as Margaret had with our, first we're going to put the plan together so we can kind of figure out where we go. And then we always have the goal to think about our technology. That's always been important to us, and thinking about how ways that we can integrate technology so it becomes a tool and it's not just a specialist area. And and then also integrating the science. This year we have the Invention Convention, something we've always wanted to do, but it's always was something we're trying to fit into the curriculum. But this year, because we had an extended year, we started to pilot in fifth grade our Invention Convention. And if you have a chance on June 20th to come over, some of the inventions are unbelievable that our kids have come up with. But the thing that's amazing to me is I go through the classrooms every day taking pictures is the excitement in our fifth graders at this time of the year. They're so excited about building and putting things together and testing it out and sharing their ideas, and they have to keep a journal of things they tested out as a scientist, and we're going to present it to school with poster board, and they have to create a model of what they're doing. So if you get a chance to come by. And so our hope is that, every grade level will have some sort of big science project next year too, to keep thinking about that whole idea of science being inquiry.
Well, so this year it's just the fifth graders?
Just
who-
the fifth grade.
And will the other kids have a chance to see what the fifth
Yep.
graders have created?
Oh, yeah.
What time, Donna? You were
The
told me
parents are
and
coming at 12:45, and the kids will
12:45.
do it in the morning. The kids will go through the classrooms in the morning, so they'll get a chance to
12:45
see.
to 1:45 if you have time.
It's based on a story by Leo Tolstoy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a great book.
And then we have our subgroup that we're paying attention to still. We still look at our cams and stams and cars and stars. And I think one of the things that we did this year with the intervention block, with the wind, what I need, next year we're gonna expand that with grades 3 and 5 next year. So we've already carved out the time for that, and we're gonna do it in reading and mathematics. That will give kids what they need, we're hoping, for instruction and really help them as they go as they prepare next year for their grade level. content, and then we'll have monthly data team meetings that we're going to continue with to check our subgroup. And again, we're going to continue with our technology, and we're going to have, what's this Carol's idea, we're going to have Technology Monday. So once a month, we're going to have professional development for teachers. We're going to give them a survey in September and ask them what technology they still feel not comfortable with, and what things they'd like to learn, whether it be the iPad, how they can integrate in the classroom. So once a month, every Monday, the staff will come to the library, volunteer to do some technology, learn it, because we have so much new technology in our building. I think, people want to just find out all the things they can do, whether it be a laptop, to an iPad, to a document camera, to a smartboard. I know Barry's already started a few smartboard classes, but I think there's not enough, they can't get enough of it. They want to
And he's
just really
doing
help.
that at Pembroke as well,
As
right?
at
Pearlie,
Pearlie, yeah.
sorry. Pearlie as well, yeah.
And then this is the evaluation goal that we all have. And there's nothing more important than the teacher in the classroom with kids. And I feel very fortunate to work at a building. We have amazing teachers. They are just unbelievable, and they've really climbed the mountain. They've done the journey, and I think this year they're feeling really good about the work they've done. So we're ready to do things like the One Community, One Book, and the Invention Convention. So I applaud all the work they do. I'm just glad that I get a chance to work with them. Yeah. Questions?
Are you still, next year, will WPP still be a program, you'll be working with
Yeah,
that?
fourth and fifth grade. We see a benefit to doing that because it's not just about the writing, but it's sometimes we do prompted kind of open response questions with it. And we think that that's really helped us a lot in our open response, in our writing. And it's only a homework, and it's something we go over, and it gives us quick feedback and quick data. It's not costly, but it's something that's pretty valuable.
And it's only fourth and fifth?
Only fourth and fifth.
I just wanted to reiterate something that you said, where you have generosity of the PTA and Georgetown Education Foundation. And I'm curious, I remember reading in the Georgetown paper that the PTA was looking for a position. Did that get?
They got it. They got a president.
Fantastic.
Yep, yep.
Fantastic.
Very exciting.
So anyways, I just wanted to
great.
reiterate that for people who might be watching at home, how important and appreciated those two groups are, the
Absolutely.
PTA and the Georgetown Education Foundation.
Yeah, they've
So
been great to us.
Thank you for bringing that up. The Spark caught my attention, music stimulating the brain and whatnot. I think that's a great intervention. I think it's really pretty cool. The only question that came up for me is the issue of dancing and heart rates. I'm just curious, what kind of heart rate are you trying to get them up to a certain heart rate?
Well, he's actually, yeah, we'd like them. We ask them to take their pulse
Yeah.
before they start, and then we ask them to make sure that their pulse is racing. But Mike goes over that in the phys ed class about heart rate and what their heart rate should be. He does that on a regular basis. They actually have a Spark curriculum we use in physical education.
Yeah.
It really talks about that. So we don't really, when we're doing the Spark for MCAS, we don't ask them specifically what their heart rate should be. We just ask them to make sure they're moving around, and they have built up a sweat, and they feel like their heart is racing, and that's when they know they're. But it's nice to, when the MCAS, it's nice when they leave there with a smile on their face. It kind of alleviates some of the anxiety too.
Well, I think that's where the questions just popped up for me, which is the idea of feeling good through music and relieving stress prior to going into MCAS makes all the sense in the world. The heart rate issue and sugar and fatigue and how that may or may not be an issue once you get into your MCAS. And I don't know if that's been discussed in this program or not, but it would be something that I would be interested
Yeah.
to make sure
Yeah,
is.
he's written a book, and he now has created the curriculum, and it's very popular in high schools because high schools really looked at ways that they could change the way they structure their day. So your most difficult class is physics. You need to have a break in between there. So they work closely with health and wellness programs to try and reschedule the day.
Yeah.
It really had me thinking last year, because we changed our fourth grade to have a break in the middle of the morning at 10:15. Because we really felt like they did their math first thing, and those kids needed that break. And we thought that was important, based on what I had read from his book. I thought that, we need to think about that, how hard it is for our kids in schools nowadays to sit there extended periods of time, with paper and pencil, and we don't have a lot of opportunities for them to move around. And we can't forget about that.
No, I think
Particularly
it's-
for
I think it's
boys.
really important.
Exactly.
I just went to the Youth at Risk conference, and the keynote speaker was Michael Thompson, who wrote Raising Cain. And he talks about, just the difficulty that we have with boys because they need to get up and they need to physically walk around. And, in writing, he said that the average 10th grade boy writing this is nationwide, is about the same level as the average 8th grade girl. And if you look at even our SATs, the difference in the writing SAT between the boys and the girls score 30 points higher than the boys do in writing. So this is definitely something that can be carried on into high school. I think they should do this program before they take the SATs as well.
What I,
Market it.
Fabulous. Yes.
what I guess I just throw out there to everybody, to the administration, to the committee as well, there are other interventions as well. And I think there are a direction that I know in education, I know in my field, healthcare, they're absolutely moving into. But meditation is one of them. And all the various forms of meditation. And then, of course, there's nature, which is playing a big role in that. So there are other interventions out there that if as a district, as a town, we could be talking about this stuff, I think it would be a great discussion point for the future.
I just want to say too, the atmosphere, I think at all the schools, I think the atmosphere is great, but both Pearlie and Pembroke, just the welcoming feel that you have. Pearlie, I remember people saying, oh, you're leaving Pearlie, you're gonna go up to Pembroke. I gotta say, I think that Pembroke is just as warm and welcoming, and you just feel like everyone there just wants, to make sure that you're coming in there, you don't have a problem, they wanna, address whatever it is. And then you go into the middle high school and it's the same thing. A couple of years ago, I didn't necessarily feel that way with the middle high school. I thought it was kind of, oh, these are older kids now, what are you coming in for? But now it's like, what can I do for you? And it's really nice because you don't feel like you're interfering or you're being a bother to people, so I feel like I can just go into any of the schools.
Well,
as long as I get buzzed in.
That's really nice to hear, because
Identify
that's
yourself.
been our district focus. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's
we've had
right.
that as district goal, that's.
Right,
I can agree with that. I
yeah.
do know
The
what you mean.
parents like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Partnerships with parents and community, that's one of our major goals, it's
Yeah.
been for years.
Doing a great job with it.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any
Thank you
questions?
for noticing that, they do work really hard at it. All right.
Great.
Thank
you
you,
very much.
ladies.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So we will,
So now you can mush your motions together.
so,
Mush
the
your
chair will
motions.
entertain a motion to approve the 2013-2014 Pearlie School Improvement Plan as presented by Principal Margaret Marr, as well as the Pembroke School Improvement Plan 2013-2014 as presented by Principal Dr. Tanner.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
So Margaret, you can stay here, 'cause Donna's, yep.
All right. Yes.
So
Killer.
getting really comfortable there, Margaret. We have to
You might have been thinking, why isn't she moving?
I'm excited for this.
Hi, Donna.
I'm excited for this.
Yes.
Okay.
So before we dive into this, Rob, I just want to comment that with regards to some of our programming for next year in the special ed department, we're looking at incorporating meditation and yoga for our students. So we've already engaged in that conversation. So thank you for your support.
You have a lot of support in this room. Right.
All right. Do you want me? Wanna
Sure.
Go ahead. So, again, and as you know, we're assessing, taking a look at all the different programs that we have across the district for special education. We invited Dr. Jim Early to come in. He's done an assessment. He's going to present to you in August. One area that Margaret and I have been looking at is how can we service our young students, our early intervention students that are coming in at the age of 3 years old. And what we've discovered is what we really need is to have a sub-separate intensive program for these students who are coming in at 3 that aren't quite ready for the integration of a pre-K program that has some typically developing peers, it has larger classroom size. So we've taken a look at what are the requirements that we might need to put this kind of a program together so that we can better service these little ones and sort of catch them young, provide them with very intense services, if you will, in order to bring them along as far as possible. So, what you want?
So, the greenhouse program, where children blossom at the Pearly School. So,
Guess who named
Love
it?
the name of it.
that we envision
The garden
that,
theme working.
exactly, the garden theme.
I like it.
It's not a bad theme for
Right.
education at all.
No, it isn't.
And again, just when I think of a greenhouse, it is that place that's very warm and nurturing and very self-contained, where you do want to give children that very best beginning. So this would be an opportunity to have very high ratio, I always get that wrong, with adult support. And at this point in time, we might be looking at 2 or 3 children in the program. We have to wait and see, because again, you know, what often happens when we're that first school, children may be in early intervention, and then when they turn 3, they're eligible to come to a public school. But for some children whose needs at that point in time are significant, we don't have a program for them. So we are hoping to provide that place and then bring them into school. And I can say, and I am not ashamed to say it at all, our staff is phenomenal. And our special ed teachers and our regular ed teachers that work with the special ed staff. So I am so confident that all we need is to get the children in, and we will be able to provide for them. So this is that opportunity. We have the space and are carving out a nice little area, warm and inviting for children. And so what we're asking for is to get your approval, and then once we have your approval, we can start on being able to put it together, and then just wait for the children. Because again, sometimes you just don't know who's out there. You have to wait. Then when they turn 3, and then we'll get the phone call from EI. So we're thinking at this point in time, we will have 2 children, and then possibly next fall, we'll have a couple other children that would be appropriate for this program. So we want to make sure that we have everything in place so that we can start it when we have the children.
And we did an analysis of what would be the entrance criteria for these children, what would be the exit criteria for these children. We did a cost analysis of can we afford it right now? What is the long-term outcome if you have children who have such significant needs? Oftentimes what happens is they end up being placed outside the district, and we really don't want that. We want to keep our children here in Georgetown. And as Margaret said, we assessed our staff, we had conversations with our staff, and you know, we really believe, based on the criteria of what the children, as well as what the certifications and experience of the staff, that we really are looking forward to keeping these children here in their home school.
So I'm just curious, what happens, you have these exit criteria, and what happens if a child doesn't meet those exit criteria by the age that his peers are moving on? What do we keep this child in the greenhouse program? Does the child progress?
There's a combination of things that could happen. So when you consider a program such as this, there's a law that says that you can have students within 48 months of age together in a program that's meeting their different intellectual, developmental, physical needs. These children are substantially below where other children their age might be. So the hope is always that they're in the least restrictive environment, and that might include just lunch or recess or some types of engagement with typical peers that way, up to the point where maybe they're out for just maybe a half an hour for a quick reading lesson or something like that, and anything in between. So to say what would happen exactly, we can't say, because it's so individualized for children. So what we would do is reassess once a year. Where's the child at? What does the testing tell us? What does the data collection tell us that we've been doing? You know, can we move the child out for 20, 30, 40% of the day? Have them in the sub-separate class we don't know. It all depends.
But this is an early childhood program, so it's not just a preschool program.
Right, but I'm just saying, so as that child gets older, we continue to have specialists in place. Through.
Well, and it, yeah,
So there's not, I guess what I'm thinking of is if you have a child that has that level of need, that moving that child from institution to institution to institution is probably not in the child's best interest. So if we're going to bring in children this young and offer to meet their needs, can we continue to meet their needs?
Yes.
Do we have the staff and the programs in place? That's my
well, and
question.
I
It would
think that's
develop-
the goal.
right.
I
We
think
would
that
have
is
to
the
grow
goal.
it.
Right.
Okay.
I think that's, because when we are looking at, again, Georgetown is growing.
Right.
And so as the town grows and the population grows, you just by nature of how it is, you tend to have more children perhaps with disabilities. And again, maybe 10 years ago, there wasn't a need. Or if there were maybe one child, you know, we unfortunately didn't have the program for them. But now we're seeing, you know, when we start to see 2, 3, and then on the horizon, maybe 4 or 5, we feel like this is something we want to create. So then perhaps this is a program that travels.
Right.
Because the other part of it is, you know, again, the hope being that you get a child young, you provide the intervention, and then they won't need that intensive support, that maybe they wouldn't need that, you know, they wouldn't need the greenhouse program. So then you want to grow children out of that. Well, maybe in 2 or 3 years, we don't need this now, but maybe it's needed at another age. And then maybe in 5 or 6 years, you have to re-implement. So
I
as
see.
you know, Donna said, you have to look at your population. And
Just
that's,
be
as
responsive
we're
to the
always
pop-
looking at our programs, who are the children? And then
And if there
then
was
providing
one child, we would not be doing this. But, you know, we what we're seeing is that there's a need. And this is kind of what we've done with all of our other special ed programs. We had like a population of students that were on the autism spectrum. We didn't have a program for them at the middle school. So what a shame if they all would have had a wonderful opportunity in the elementary school, and then we would have had to send them all out of district, not to mention the costliness of that.
Yes.
But more importantly, you know, this is their community. We want these kids to stay
Yes.
here. So that's why we've grown the programs to have that continuum of services all the way through. This is one of the populations that we had not been able to, we hadn't put a program in place because basically we didn't need it.
Right.
So obviously there's a need emerging, and that's why we're creating it. And funding is always a question,
That
so
was-
on the back of your paper, and then what follows in your in your book behind it, your packet behind it is a summary, because, you know, we're talking about this from the preschool revolving account. This, you know, here's the costs of what we would be looking for. And then we give you the summary of the preschool revolving account, so you can in fact see that the program costs can be absorbed in that account, and there would still be the balance that we have said that we would need in the event of, you know, another paraprofessional needs to be hired, or we need to have someplace to go regarding the preschool.
Is there, and let me first say, you should be quite proud of what you're doing with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there the possibility that, it's kind of going to Alana's question of 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road, that the cost of the program would be growing such that it could not be supported?
Well, what we're gonna have to look, if it becomes a program, let's, for example, at Pembroke, then we wouldn't be wanting to charge the preschool revolving account for it. So we would need to be looking at shifting money within the budget. But remember, we have the special education needs vary. If we were to bring some children back from out of district, that goes back into the pot. So it's a shifting of expenses. So if we need the program, we would need to find the money for the program. So
Right. Does that happen, Carol? I mean, if we've placed a student out of district and then we
Yes.
decide that we hire the faculty and now we can meet that student's needs, we can say you no longer can have an out of district placement, you can come
Yeah,
back because
well,
we can meet your
yes,
needs?
we can, and we were very successful when we set the programs up in the past, when we decided to go in this direction. When Dave Dempsey was the special education director, we were very successful. We went from 27 students out of district to 15 students out of
wow.
district. So, you know, there were a number of kids that, you know, some that graduated, obviously, but there were a number of kids, particularly at the high school, where we were able to bring them back, and that the recovery of those expenses got redirected into making sure we had the appropriate staffing for the program.
It all comes under really assessing and understanding who your student population
Sure,
is.
sure.
Ensuring that when you set up a program that you consider, you know, the professional development that you're providing with your teachers, the fidelity for which the staff is running the program, as well as supporting for students who are doing inclusion, supporting the general education staff as well, so that they're able to understand who these students are and how they can support the students. So we don't just say, oh, today we're going to have this program, let's bring some kids back. There's a lot of thoughtful planning that happens in preparation for it, so that, you know, when the kids do come back, they have a terrific program to come back to that's thought about what their needs are.
Right, and you might, you know, depending on the needs of the kids from early intervention, you may have a couple of years where you don't have children of this severity in terms of need, and they can be done, you know, integrated very well into the preschool. Maybe they need speech services, or perhaps the autism spectrum program, the ASD program is appropriate that we have in place. And then you would shift the funds, right? So it's every
hope-
year we have to look at that.
I hope that kind of trend would take place. My fear and my intuition is that this is going to be growing. Not the
Yeah.
program, but that there are going to be more children.
Well, it's very well.
And that's what we're
very
trying
well
to
could be.
anticipate.
Prepare for that.
Prepare for that.
But
yeah.
what we all have to also think about is every time you send a student out of district, you're looking probably between $80,000 to $100,000, even at a collaborative program. So again, it we always talk about the money, but it's not driven solely by the money. It really is
Because that
driven
really wouldn't
by,
be to the,
by our
like,
philosophy that we
benefit of the
believe,
child.
it's the whole concept of community.
Absolutely,
Everybody in Georgetown
absolutely.
belongs in this community and should be educated in this community.
That's right.
Enriching to everyone, that's it, no matter what you're.
And that's the definition of a family. And
Yes.
I don't know who it was that said it. For some reason, I think it was Gandhi. But you can judge a society by how it takes care of those with the greatest need, or something to that effect. And you could get rid of society and put it into school district. And it's something for Georgetown to be quite proud of. I think.
And I think, we're gonna talk about it with our strategic plan, is we also always need to also think about kids on the other end of that spectrum too. So it's, it's really about everybody, and, I think we're doing a really good job focusing on the kids that really, have the farthest to go and the greatest challenges in terms of learning. But we always wanna be thinking about all sides of that. That's where you might have to invest some money down the road.
Gifted and talented.
Yeah, or, well,
however you,
whatever we
however
call
you
it, yeah.
call it.
And is this just strictly for Georgetown residents?
At
That's a
this
good-
point, I would envision it is.
Yes.
Again, that's a decision that can be made at some point in time if we would want to open that up. That it's, again, a possibility, but for right now, we're, again, just looking at the population that we have.
Right.
Okay. And
But
do
it is
we-
the kind of program where we could look at something if they're, if let's say the ratios were such that you could take up to 7 children, let's say, and we have 3 or 4, right? If there was a student who was a good match for the program, we wouldn't go solicit, but every once in a while we get asked, because people know we have a program in this, that, or the other thing. We could entertain that, but that wouldn't be our motivation. It's not
Do
about
many other
making-
districts
Yeah, I
have
know.
programs like this, and do we know the success of them? I was just curious. Or is it new? Is this something that's sort
It's
of
not something
emerging?
that's new. It's a concept that has existed, but oftentimes what's happened is in a town the size of Georgetown, because the numbers are so small, that the child often goes to a collaborative to have their needs met. Again, we feel that we have a growing population of students who need these types of services. We believe that we can, quite easily meet these children's needs. So that's why we want to develop the program. And, there may be other surrounding towns, that are small that may have one or two, as Carol had suggested, that, once this is established, that we can say, hey, we have this program, we have a couple of openings if anybody has a need. It's the way, I'm finding that in our particular collaborative that the school districts are starting to work together is by, seeking out what is your program in autism or what is your program for social emotional. Let's talk about how we can work together as other districts, which is nice.
It looks great.
I think it's,
I think it's gonna be great.
Any other questions for them?
That's a great question.
We
Should we
can
vote
vote.
on
Yeah,
it?
you want to vote. Okay. So I think there's a motion in here somewhere. Oh, maybe there isn't. Where is that?
One more
It's
question.
not in here.
Sure.
Would you, just looking at some of these conditions, would you be working with the physicians of these children to understand, like, how successful the program is for them? Like, would there be that kind of feedback loop?
Yes, there's always, when we have team meetings or when we're gathering data on children, what we always do is include like a physician, or if it's a therapist, or we look for those outside evaluators to be part of the team and to participate and help. So for example, if we have a student who has a vision impairment of some sort, well, we're not going to hire a vision specialist, but we're going to consult with somebody who's going to come in and provide that service for us.
and just as we talk about data across the grade level for all children, that's how we measure the success of this, through the IEP and those goals. And there are assessments that measure that, so we're looking at progress regardless of what the goal is. We want to see the child make the progress, so,
Right.
that is a part of the assessment.
And because, as you noted, it can be so unique within the syndrome or the disability, it's very specific to that child and what they need and what their goals are or their learning curve that we're measuring.
That looks great.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to, the addition of the greenhouse program as presented by Special Education Director Donna Straight and Principal Margaret Marr.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
The only question I think that I just wanted to, so what we're approving is that the program is going to go ahead and be developed, and will we see it again?
No, you're basically voting to approve to basically say you're gonna approve the start of this program. So they can move forward with actually implementing it, notifying people about it, because now this is the time of year where team meetings are starting to come up.
Yeah.
So some of the children who might be qualifying for this program, we would want to be able to talk to their parents about it, so they could feel comfortable with, and start to really flesh it out to the point where, parents can feel confident that we have a program, not just an idea for a program. So we really need your approval to say, yes,
Yeah.
let's go
Yep,
forward.
we're ready
with
to
it.
go for it.
Okay.
Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
I look
Thank you,
forward to
ladies.
seeing it grow. I would
Come
love to
visit
have an
us.
update on it.
Thank
A few
you.
months.
Excellent, very important.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Julie. And Julie's things can be kind of quick, I think. It's you probably had.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes.
Julie.
So I'm here tonight in your packets. You have two of my latest little projects. One is the summer professional development. It's part one of a two-part series, and I'm sure the next time I come, we'll be talking about next year's professional development, the year-long program. So the one that I have here in your packet looks much better in color, I have to say. I don't know if you received that in your email. But just to give you some highlights, I worked with Dr. Straight to organize some supportive measures for teachers to think about over the summer for accommodations for students with special needs. Working with the ELA vertical team to align curriculum, as we have been doing for the last year, but also to integrate some of the new things that we're learning in terms of what's coming down the road and in the future for assessments, for our writing rubrics, things that you heard about in the school improvement plans, continuing along that line of work. We wanted to give teachers some opportunities to play with technology and get a better sense of some of the things that they can do in their classrooms. And we had sent our teachers out to do some training on their own for technology, and they wanted to be able to come back and offer that to the teaching staff. And so this is the beginning of that process.
Part of that culture.
Yes, exactly. As part of our mentoring program, we're building a course for instruction and, supportive instruction along the course of I'll say supporting new teachers. We wanted to start that phase with our Instruction for All, and that's a professional development offering that will be offered by Heidi Mongeau, who's also our mentor coordinator. So our new teachers will have that.
Heidi teaches at the college level.
Yes,
A
she
course
does.
similar to this. And this ties into the evaluation process, it ties into
Yeah.
RPI, it ties into, those core district initiatives that we're putting in place.
Right. And Donna and I will do training on assessments. We've been to a few trainings, quite a few trainings ourselves over the course of the year to learn about formative assessment, summative assessment, you name it assessment, but also the new Park assessment, which will eventually take the place of the MCAS test that we are very used to. And so we wanted to be able to shed some light on that. And continuing to support teachers when we ask teachers, what do you feel like you need support in for professional development? Oftentimes we'll hear things like, well, can you help me when I have a student with a specific need, whether it's a language-based instruction need or a social-emotional need. And so we wanted to, again, build those types of opportunities into this program, but also the year-long program that we're pulling together now, or finalizing now, I should say. And so then you'll see that with our applied behavioral analysis course and the managing and supporting students' behavioral needs, because each child is different, and in helping to support all learners is definitely a huge goal of ours. And so we're trying to find places where we can help support teachers with those concerns.
And one of the things you'll hear when you hear the report from the gentleman we had come in and do the external evaluation is that the teachers have a high degree of interest and very positive about,
Yes,
again,
very positive.
educating all students, but they have questions about what is the best way to work with kids that have social emotional disabilities when they're in my classroom. What are the best ways to support those language-based learners? So they're asking for that, and so it's nice to be able to have people in-house who have those skills and talents and knowledge that can share with their colleagues. And so that's part of why we're doing that, is it's
Right.
in direct relationship to the data we received as well.
Great. I'm also doing hopefully a course next year in the district on content area literacy. I wanted to be able to start that off, or start a precursor to that, and so I'll do a workshop on that this summer. All the administrators are opening their doors to help teachers write SMART goals. We've been working on training all our teachers on what are the specifics around SMART goals, which is part of the new teacher evaluation training. And so we're going to have a workshop, and we're asking teachers to just come in with their questions and ideas, and to really get a sense of what teachers need on a one-on-one basis. And so all the administrators will be there to help out on that day, and get a sense of the questions that teachers are asking themselves. What should I do when it comes to defining a professional practice goal and a student learning goal? What are those two things specifically, and what language can I use to really make sure that I'm targeting those things next year? We have creative bookmaking. Nora Cannon does a fabulous job with that, and that's something that you might think is just fun, but what it is, it's a new way or a different way to help kids organize information, summarize information. But we all know that children love tactile things, and it helps to not only read and highlight and take notes, but also to do things physically. to help retain some of that knowledge. And so this bookmaking course is actually really important in that sense because it gives teachers other options to maybe traditional methods that they have used in the past.
Can we attend?
You can. It's fun. It's great. It's really a
Free
fun
of charge,
class.
Rob, you come on.
I could use it.
We have some Atlas curricular alignment webinars that are constantly running through our Atlas curricular alignment program, and those are free to teachers. Obviously, you can't click on the link here, but the link is embedded within the email that I sent out earlier. And we're calling teachers to invite them to join our 2 new vertical teams, which will start up next year. We have the ELA vertical team running this year. That will run again next year, but also we're looking to expand that into a math vertical team and a science vertical team. So we'll have 3 vertical teams running next year, which is fantastic. We're very excited about that.
That'll facilitate communication between the grades and
All grade levels,
all the
horizontally,
courses.
vertically,
Yes.
all coursework, all assessments.
Teach into each other, yes.
Yes, and there are a lot of changes, as you know, with our new frameworks. We have new frameworks this year for ELA and math at the same time, running concurrently. And then next year the state is expected to sign on to new science frameworks. And so we want to be ahead of that and get that ball rolling. So we're ready when that happens. So you name it, it's happening in the world of education. Trying to keep
And are a
tabs
lot of
on all
those
those
science
things.
frameworks changing at the high school level?
Yes.
All
Okay.
levels.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And how is the attendance with these?
Great. Well,
Is it?
I have 15 people in the ELA vertical team right now, and it's been wonderful and great
Yeah, across the levels.
across all grade levels. Yeah. And it's all volunteer. You have to know that. That's the other thing.
I just
Teachers
I
are
think
coming
it just
and picking up.
speaks so loudly to the working conditions for the teachers, that they feel safe enough to ask the questions, to reveal what they don't know and what they want help with, and that they feel supportive enough to join together with their colleagues and to come together. It's just a wonderful thing to know exists in the schools,
Yeah.
because I don't take it for granted.
And you know, if you've been
schools
in
at
other
all.
school systems, you realize it doesn't happen everywhere.
Yeah,
And
it
so
certainly
I feel
doesn't.
blessed too in that
Yeah.
sense, where there are always people that are willing and very interested.
Really committed professionals.
Mhm.
Just a very good climate to work in, which I think is.
That's great.
That goes to the top of the ship.
That's right.
We all work,
Yes,
we all work
indeed.
together. Okay, so then Julie, do you want to just
So
buzz through the
quickly,
middle school?
yes, we have made some changes through this vertical team and in the work that I've done with Brian in the middle school, and taking a look at how are we organizing the reading that we're asking kids to do. So there's been such a huge explosion in young adult literature, and we wanted to be able to offer that to kids, but also to help parents and guide parents in the sense of, what should my kids be reading? Can you help me find some authors and some titles or some genres to get my kids interested and kind of pull that back through the summer? Say that again?
It's a great list. I can't wait to start reading everything
Well,
on it.
it is a great
But I
list.
haven't read.
I went to Barnes & Noble Tuesday night with my own children for their summer reading. They do a thing at Barnes & Noble, and I found 4 more books I wish I could have added. So it's just, the list is always growing, and if you have additions to that, feel free to send them along. But I wanted to let you know that after school committee accepts this, if that's your prerogative, the English department head will be sending out a letter to parents to explain the different concepts that are embedded within this new summer reading program at the middle school, and to also give some insight to parents on what is a character trait, how do I help my children figure that out while they're reading, and also to give some links to parents for various places where they can find free audiobooks, because we know some children, reading is a struggle, and we don't want children to feel like that's what this is going to be. So we want to give some options to parents in terms of how can I find support with this as well. So that will be coming probably in the next week. And so if you look through, you'll just see, a sheet that certainly children can log, and, hopefully we'll see more than 2. But I realize it is a short summer, and I'm a realist when I need to be. But you'll also see that there are 3 that are recommended books per grade level, and then the list below incorporates all the different genres that we're expected to teach our children throughout the course of their middle school careers. So giving you some insight in terms of, here are some of the things they'll be reading, is one of the goals that we had as well.
And one of the things they'll just do as a follow-up to it is a literary essay. You know, a literary, you know, just as opposed to them, in the past it was like you have to take a test.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, we
so it's
wanted to move away from
it
that
really isn't
because
about that, it's about
understanding
reading and
drawing
what you're
from
getting
literature.
from it, right,
Mhm.
right.
Exactly. And if you look at the new frameworks, there's so much depth in terms of asking kids, you know, how are you finding the change in characterization, or how are you finding, you know, the changes in terms of mood and setting, and how does that impact the reading in your interpretation of it. And so all of these things matter. It's hard to gauge that in just a test. So we want our kids to be able to write and explain and analyze and pull certain things from the text that are
And
valuable.
if you saw the way the elementary kids are capable of doing it, we know middle school kids are capable.
Absolutely, that's right. So that is it for me.
I was happy with it. I like the change
good.
versus the kids are like, oh, I'm going to middle school and I have a test already. You know,
Right, we don't want that. I mean,
It is
especially for an incoming
intimidating.
sixth grader, it's certainly
Yeah.
something, I could see where that would be daunting.
Yeah.
Reading should still be about loving it.
Right.
Right.
And I'm so excited for The Outsiders. That was one of my favorite books growing up.
Oh, good,
Oh,
mine
yeah.
too.
It was.
It's a great
Gold
story, and
Golden
it's timeless, you know, in a sense.
Take a look at the list too, Ryan, in case you have some
Right.
Yeah, I was looking
suggestions
at it,
there
yeah.
that you might think we should have
They all look
included.
good.
Good.
Yeah, it is a good list. Does anyone have any questions?
So, do we want to have a vote, just a vote, that the school committee will adopt the middle school list? I'm not sure it's all that required, but it is it's curriculum, so I guess it wouldn't hurt, you know, for you to entertain a motion to adopt the recommended middle
changes.
school reading list.
Mhm.
Just as
Okay.
a formal process.
Okay. Good question.
I guess the only question that comes up for me is some of the books I don't know. And so then it's just, trusting, which is fine, but it seems
Well-
odd to approve something that I don't know.
Right.
Oh, the
Well,
books? Well, I wouldn't, I don't,
Well,
I don't think we're expected to
I don't
know
think
all
any
that.
of us have read them all, but,
I'd be very impressed
Ryan.
if you did though.
maybe it would help if you talked a little bit about, just
Where does the
quickly, where it
list
came
come
from. Yeah.
We use the school library journal as a guide, and they recommend books constantly. We use, in addition to that, the Horn Book Awards. We use the Scholastic Achievement Awards list. There are so many book lists out there. But what we try to do is find current literature, but also timeless literature, so that you have a sense of both. I mean, you all know the classics. You'll see the classics there, and that's a given in terms of, I'm sure you're familiar with many of those. But the young adult literature's books tend to change, but they're all books that have been recommended by librarians as books that would be applicable and appropriate.
And the themes
That's
are
helpful,
appropriate,
thanks.
and the themes are
Yeah, yeah.
appropriate for these kids, because, there are some books you can read.
There are some books you'd love to put on the list, but it would just.
Right.
It's
There are
not
also-
without education in
Right.
terms of.
But there are also some
teaching
books
book.
that
It's a different story.
kids can read the words, but the themes are just
Oh,
too
exactly.
sophisticated. You
Right.
see that even in
No, I've
elementary
always
school.
wanted to.
Kids that are really good readers can read like, things like Indian in the Cupboard. But if you really understand Indian in the Cupboard, there's some if you have some historical background knowledge and all of that, it means a lot more to you, right? So it's not just about being able to read the words, it's really about being able to really, immerse
Understand
yourself
the
with the theme and
concepts.
understand the concept, right?
Right.
Okay,
I think it looks great.
so do you wanna take a vote?
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the changes to the summer reading process and book list for the middle school as presented.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Julie.
Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let them go.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the superintendent's information that was provided in the packet?
I was just gonna, Brian, if you had any questions about Girls Inc., but we can save those for the next
About
time.
what?
This Girls Inc., I know Brian had put that in there about a program that they were gonna do
Oh, the one
at the
in here.
middle
They
school.
do
so-
excellent programs.
Yeah.
Okay, financial report?
We get a lot next week, next meeting.
Okay. I'm nervous.
No, but
Nothing to worry about.
there'll be transfers and then hopefully projected closeouts and everything. We will not close out. Our last warrant for FY 13 will be July 15th, I think she
Right,
said.
right before
Yeah.
Well,
our
she sent
meeting.
you an email regarding signatures.
She did send
Sure
me an
people-
email, and I did tell her that I would certainly be here, and I will just see who else on the committee will be there to make sure she doesn't get caught in
Yeah.
not getting a signature.
Because you won't have
Yeah.
a meeting till the end of the month.
Right, right. I'll send out
The
an
town
email.
gave us the deadline, so.
Okay, July 15th, okay. I'll send out an email tonight. Okay, we want to go into subcommittee reports?
We don't have
Budget.
a lot to
I know, I don't
report.
think we do budget and finance.
We haven't met yet.
Nope.
So, it's a new title there, and that's about it.
Okay, governance?
We did meet. I'm looking for the minutes.
I was very impressed with the minutes and saw when you started and when you ended, I was like, wow, they really accomplished a lot in that time.
Thank you. Let's see. So Carol presented, well, I don't know the format here. Am I supposed to go
Yeah,
through
go
this in
ahead.
detail?
No, you
No.
could just give us the
Yeah,
highlights, because
brief
they
synopsis.
read it.
Okay,
Hard to
so
cover, they
I guess
read
the
it.
highlights are that Carol presented, recent situation at the high school that got the committee thinking about vendors and core reforms and, should we look at the whole process? And we had a number of action items coming out of that. One, looking at vendor agreements. Naomi was gonna look at possibly giving us some updated wording for our contract, and then we're gonna look at our policy and social networking. So a little bit more work to do. I think we're gonna meet in about another 30 days and sort of wrap this stuff up.
Okay.
And then we talked about the policy review schedule, and I know that that whole book has been revamped over the past 2 to 3 years, so I think Laura is gonna help us. She has a grid with all the policies, and I think when they originated and when they need to be reviewed, that we're gonna use as our guide to make sure that we're doing it, sort of religiously.
Right.
Whether it's a 2-year cycle or a 3-year cycle. And the last topic that we really just touched on was school committee goals. We started to talk a little bit about subcommittee goals, one being making sure that we're reviewing the policies, once again on that 2 to 3 year cycle, but thought that we'd talk about goals in general at the off-site. That's to be
Yeah, with
scheduled.
Oh, right.
Mike, with Mike.
Yeah,
Right. And I think that was it.
Okay.
thank you. Negotiating, Lauren and I did meet with Carol to go over her contract, and we are hoping to meet again soon. We do have to, probably within the next week.
Yeah.
Because we did want to talk about it at the next meeting.
That's right.
Public relations
We haven't met
No,
since
not
the
since the
last
last meeting.
meeting.
and safety, I know it got moved.
We
Right.
did have it today.
Yeah.
I was not able to.
No.
No,
attend.
okay.
It was the chief's last,
Changed.
Oh,
his
his
last meeting. Although the new chief
Attended?
came, and Detective Rodden. So Don Cudmore announced that next year he and Detective Rodden will be the liaisons to the school safety committee. They'll be coming to all the meetings. He did say he's applied for a grant. Apparently there was some grant funds from the original body that approved money and funds for school resource officers. We enjoyed that grant for 3 years. The police budget funded it the following year. We funded, it the following year. And then now we kind of did the liaison officer. I call him Chief Cudmore, I guess. Chief Cudmore,
It's not Donnie Chief.
no, he's Dustani to me, but Chief Cudmore has applied for these grant funds that are available supposedly for those districts that had school resource officers and weren't able to necessarily keep up with the funding of them. So we're gonna find out in September whether or not we have the opportunity to have an officer in the schools full-time like we did when we had Jimmy Rodden originally. So, you know, we talked about that. We have developed a couple of action items for next year. One being to really go through and make sure our protocols and our safety crisis manual are, you know, don't need to be adjusted and changed, and some alignment that we really could do that we now, after we've used it a couple of years, we can see some places where that could happen. And then particularly looking at, there's a service that an organization that does site plans, like floor plans and all of those kind of things, for not very much money, like under $300. They come and they do updated plans, which we feel we could integrate really nicely in with our plans. So we talked about those kind of things. So, you know, we're excited, but, you know, we wanted to really thank Chief Mulligan, because, you know, it's not always the case that the chief of police makes time every month to come and sit, you know, in a room with, you know, educators and really, you know, talk about safety in town and the kind of connections that we've had. And we have a great partnership. He said, you know, it's one of the greatest things that he's seen here, and he said he hasn't, talking to his colleagues, hasn't seen it in other places. So he feels, you know, very grateful to have had that opportunity, and, you know, we certainly feel very grateful to have had his participation in the process.
Yeah, I do recall that when I first was on the committee last year and sitting there and seeing him attend, I was rather shocked that he would do that. It just seemed to me that he has so many, you know, things going on, and he was always so great about the schools. I think he really has a high,
He's very excited about the security that we've put in place.
Good.
Feels really good about that. And, you know, we've done at least two or three community meetings when situations have come up, and, you know, he's been a great colleague and partner to stand right there, and, you know, everybody does it together. So, you know, best wishes to him in his retirement. And, you know, he'll be missed, but I know that Don Cudmore will be.
It's in good hands.
It's in very good hands. He'll do a great job. It'll be a seamless transition for sure.
Great. School building committee.
I was looking back in my calendar to see when we last met. We have, the next meeting for the building committee is next Tuesday, and that's at 7 o'clock, and that's here. We haven't met for a little while prior to that, and I think that I'm not going to be able to recall dates right now, but maybe you can help me with some of the dates, Carol. But we're getting towards the end of construction documents where we're getting to the end of wrapping those up so that those drawings then will go out to contractors. The list of potential contractors is being put together as we speak, and then selecting a contractor. And what my recollection is that they're hoping to start construction in November. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
So that's the basic schedule, and that's how
Good,
close.
so everything's like, what we're going through right now is what we think, where we should be at right now in the process.
Yes.
Basically,
According to the
yes.
timeline
Accor-
they developed, yeah.
Yeah, according to the timeline, yes. There are still some fundamental questions that need to be answered, and they're what you call bumps in the road. It's not unusual in the process, and they may or may not come up later, but all things considered, it's moving along probably, I think you could say, fairly the way it's supposed to.
It's great. I mean, it's such a large project.
Huge
You're
project.
It's a very
bound
big
to have
project.
things that come up that you can't necessarily get answered right away.
I will say what's
That's
interesting, and we should get the latest plans for the committee that are up. You know, just
Yeah, you're
when
right. It's
when
been a
they
while.
look at when you look at things like, you know, the colors and the patterns on the floor and the kind of materials that are gonna be used at the school, and the facade outside and how it's all gonna come together. And there's been a lot of changes to the really basic plan that I think you would have seen. It probably would be worth, you know, having them
Well, I
come
think
back.
we talked about it, was Ellie, I think she was prepared to provide us like before and after, like original, what they were originally gonna do, and then now what it is.
Yeah, well, I'll put that on my to-do list to ask, at
Ask
the
them to come
meeting
for a
on
presentation.
Tuesday, to just see, you know, what they feel they could they could do. You know, I don't know if we do it on the 27th or we do it in July, but, you know, we can see, But I think you'd be interested to see the changes, don't you think, Rob? You know,
Oh, yeah.
you know, just even the
From
way
where
the
it's been-
outside can look
From
and.
where it's been to
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The other way to do it is to not look at anything and wait until it's built.
Yeah. well, true, too.
Then be surprised.
I've heard people say that, they're like, I don't even wanna look at
But
it.
the evolution of it has been,
Some of it
it's
is
actually
interesting,
nice. I think you get more excited when you start to see,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how it could really look.
You do.
Yeah,
I'll get excited when I see the trucks going down the street.
yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
And then, could I just report on the CPAC
Yes,
meeting?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
oh,
sorry,
sure,
yes,
sure. No, I
definitely.
wanted to
You
share
had your most
this.
recent.
Yes, the
end of the year.
CPAC, the Special Education Parents Advisory Council of Georgetown, had their last and final meeting on June 4th, and Carol was there, and that it was the Shining Star Awards, and it's a really wonderful opportunity for the parents of Georgetown to show their appreciation for the dedication and commitment of the special education, of all the professional teachers in Georgetown, and apparently quite a few parents wrote in to Shelby Walker, who pulled all this together, and you know, told about how much they really appreciated all the help their children had received, and how inspiring, and how, you know, these teachers reached out and really connected with their children. So I'd just like to let you know who was nominated, because there were quite a few nominations, because we have quite a few very committed and dedicated teachers here. At the Pearly School, we had Carissa Bonner. At the Pembroke School, we had Brooke O'Neill, Kim Leonard, Michelle Finnegan. I think that's it. At the middle school, we had Amy Sanderson, Barbara Kowalski, Jan Downing. And at the high school, we had Lisa Mosquera and Tara Early. And special recognition was also given to Dr. Donna Straight for her commitment and contribution, and all the great work she's been doing
that's
here,
great.
pulling programs and everything together over this year. And it was really it was wonderful. They got these beautiful, beautiful little flowers. They were tiny, tiny roses. It's hard to describe. They were very, very special little arrangements, but so that was the Shining
So they
Star
all
Award.
got, they all got.
They all got
Oh,
that.
that was
Yes,
nice.
Yes.
That was
So
nice.
it was very nice. It was very nice. I think the teachers, felt honored, and they talked a little bit about why they joined the teaching profession, and what motivated them, and what means a lot to them in their work and with children, and it was great.
Oh, that's nice.
Good evening.
Very nice. Nice celebration.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay, old business.
So, CIP, capital improvement, I put a copy of the press release that we put out. We have been very fortunate to have a gentleman named Ray McManus, who's a local citizen who has been serving in this capacity for a couple of years. His term ends in June, and so we're suggesting, and we've been in contact with Mr. McManus also, thanking him obviously for his ongoing service. It's been a little bit more challenging the last couple of years for him because he goes to Florida for a good chunk of the winter, and much of the CIP work really hits at budget season. And they have trouble every year getting a quorum, as you noticed this year that happened. So our suggestion is that we see if there are other folks in town, someone who would want to step forward that feels that they could make that commitment, particularly in the winter months. And obviously, we would, with great gratitude, thank Mr. McManus for his service. So this is really more for your information.
Thank you.
But you will have to make the appointment. So we're putting it out there, getting information. If there's a couple of people who want, we'd probably need somebody that would be willing to sit and meet with them and perhaps interview them a little bit to kind of get a sense, and because it will have to be just one person. People have not been beating down the doors in the past.
I was gonna say,
But
How do you go about
in all
finding them?
cases, I have met with the people who've been interested. because that's, the committee had preferred that I do that, and obviously Joan and Mike Anderson would also be people, it wouldn't need to be me, but I would trust the two of them to sit with the candidates and make a recommendation, but, you know, certainly the committee could have involvement, greater involvement if you so wish to do so.
How many candidates do we have now?
We don't have any.
None. Oh.
We're putting it in for, this is a press release, it's in the paper, so we'll see where that goes.
All right.
Well, yes, thank you to Mr. McManus for
Yes, oh my goodness.
taking the time to do that, and I can understand why he would want to be in Florida.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and it's
Me too.
freezing in here in June. It's real miserable.
Me too.
Start having icicles hanging.
The
Getting
school
chilly now that all the
calendar-
people went.
Cold in here.
The school calendar discussion we
Yeah,
already took
you're
care
gonna
of.
table that or pass over it?
Yes.
Okay.
And the workshop we would like to discuss that we have planned for July 9th.
Right.
What time?
Well,
that's
that's
what
what
we're
we
gonna
have
talk
to
about.
discuss.
Yeah. What do you-
I have a building committee meeting that night.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna wanna be into the evening, you know.
Yeah, this is gonna be during the day,
Okay.
right? Does that work for you, for your schedule, to be during the day?
Yeah, I mean, I can make it
Yes,
work. It's
seems
far
like
enough
it's
away that
during the
I can
day.
make that work, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you wanna start, like, I know, by the time you get your kids to school and all that, and I don't know if you wanna start at 9 o'clock.
Well, it's July 9th.
Oh, that's right, you're not taking your kids to school in July.
Whatever.
You can.
I'm still not, like, believing the school's
Has
gonna be
anybody-
ending in
Because of the
8
weather.
days.
Gone to Camp Leslie before?
No.
I didn't put in my calendar what time it starts, so that's the
Oh.
only thing. She's going to Camp Leslie that week. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I'm not
I just
sure.
put
I don't
Camp
know what
Leslie all
time.
week.
Well,
I
that's what
didn't
I'm
put
saying, if
time.
you wanna do something
Yeah.
like 9 to
10,
2
yeah.
or something like that, then you're, you know.
Is that how long to plan on?
Well, that's what we're discussing, you know. Mike will do whatever we want him to do. You know, I think if we may have to just focus on one of the things with him, you know, if you wanna do the superintendent's evaluation, it depends on how much work we wanna do in advance of it, cause we can certainly do some research on it. You did get some paperwork on it that he gave
Yes.
when you
Is there
got
an
together.
agenda built? Maybe we build an
That's what
agenda
we're,
and
that's
then
what we're
we
talking
think about how much time.
Right, that's what we're talking about, what do we wanna accomplish?
Yeah.
We had talked about doing sort of, you know, I know they do some things with, you know, school committee goals. I know he's
Well, I
capable
think
of running
we
that.
didn't have goals last year, so when we did
Right.
our self-evaluation, we didn't have anything to evaluate ourselves against.
Just those criteria.
Yeah, so I think having goals
Mhm.
for the school committee for the year is probably worth devoting some time
Yes.
at this meeting to. On
So
goals
if you-
for the
If you did something
subcommittees.
like, if you didn't, like, if you can do 8:30, that's probably the best, but if it was like 8:30 to 11:30, and then you had you know, a working lunch, or you can break for lunch, and then just do something, even if you could stay till 3.
Yeah.
You know, and then you could break it into 2 parts. You could do 2 major topics, I think.
I think that sounds like a good plan.
What are you thinking, Rob? You look like
I'm
maybe you
just
were-
thinking, one, having it all in one day versus, is it really difficult to have, you know, a smaller chunk one day and another small chunk another day?
It wouldn't be for me, but it might be, that's what I thought the committee had said, that because originally we talked about, I asked for 2 days, remember I said you should take 2 days, and I think people said, well, they'd rather do 1 day. Did I hear that right?
And I think I was
For people who were working.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
meeting that
I mean,
that you,
that I
Oh,
wasn't
maybe
here.
that
no, you
might-
were here, but you
Yeah,
just
you
had to
had to
leave
leave.
right before
That's
that
why.
we
Yeah.
discussed it.
That's why.
And I would be, I guess I'm okay with one meeting, but then for me, it's about not trying to fit everything into it.
Well, that's why I think if you looked at the school committee goals, and one of your goals is obviously gonna be to evaluate me with the new process, right? So I think those 2 things could connect.
I would love school committee goals. to
Well,
have
then
that.
maybe we say
Why don't
that
we
in
try
the
one
morning and
day
see
and-
how that goes.
At the end of that day, we might have a sense of, well, maybe we should schedule another day. Or we might have a sense of, that's great, we accomplished what we set out to do, and it's been a worthwhile endeavor.
And where is this when you say it's gonna be at the MEC building? What is that?
Well, if you're interested in that space,
Okay, right.
if you were to follow 97 through Topsfield,
Mm-hmm.
you get to that intersection there, but where the Newburyport Highway enters.
Route 1.
Yep.
Route 1, and you could if you turn down toward the
For the fair,
fairgrounds.
okay.
Right there, as you turn, right on your right-hand side, there's like a building that sits on the side, and it's called it's a collaborative.
Okay.
But it's right there.
All right.
You could go right by it pretty easily. And it's a very nice conference space. They have a kitchen area there. They have beautiful
Meeting rooms,
tables,
yeah.
meeting
Yeah.
rooms. You can use technology there. It's a nice space.
Okay, so we just have to call them and.
No, we're taking
Oh,
care of all
okay.
that if you're interested.
You'll
in
give us
doing
the
it.
address.
And then the question
I
is,
think
do
I
we
know what you're
want
talking about,
to do a
but-
brown bag? Do we want to,
You could
you
even
know,
call in.
or
Have a working
have
lunch
somebody bring lunch in. They do that all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
because
sandwiches.
Topsfield has some things right downtown there.
Yeah, we could take care of that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
guess
there's
I'm
like-
still of the vote of doing a session. Can't we do all of that up to lunch? Versus going into the afternoon?
Like what,
Goals,
11:30 to 1?
school goals.
Well, what about the superintendent's?
Those two
Evaluation.
items,
Yeah, I think you'd have trouble getting both of those in the morning before lunch.
you do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Because I think this process of the school committee goals, I think it's more of an you're engaging in the process, not just we're all gonna throw out goals and we're just gonna agree. I think it's a process.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So would we want to go prepared with goals?
Okay.
It's late. It's late
Yeah.
for you. We don't usually go this late. This is a
I
big
can't believe
agenda.
how late
You wouldn't have a problem if Brian
No,
goes.
of course
with
not.
us.
Thank you for
Thank you for
staying.
staying.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting me be here.
Oh, well, maybe you'll be here in the future. We'd love that. So,
We'll see.
all right, all right.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
I don't know if it's that I'm just getting older or what, but I think, the superintendent's evaluation is enough for me to handle in a day. Or developing school goals and having a workshop on it, that's enough for me to handle during a day. That's just me.
So what about one of those in the morning and one of those in the afternoon?
No,
that's
what
not
I'm
what he's
that-
saying.
what
Yeah,
I'm
No, he's
saying-
saying, he's saying
Morning.
that's enough. So the issue was time. I think when we talked
Right.
about it and you weren't here, the issue was really, could we find two dates where we could get together when all of us were in town
Yeah.
and
And
all of
that
us
was-
were
that proved to
available?
be more
And
difficult.
that's a challenge.
I
and
believe, yeah, I'm sure.
So
I'm
that's,
sure.
we're always making those
Well,
compromises.
if I'm in the minority, I'll go for the day.
Yeah, and you'll-
Can we
you'll-
bring you
you'll
lots
give
of
it your college
caffeine?
try.
Should we make sure there's plenty of coffee?
You'll give it
Yeah, you
college
can do
try.
the spark.
Coffee
You can do
is a
spark.
really
That's
good
right, we'll have to
Spark.
work some spark in. Or maybe you can work out some nature activity for us to do.
Yeah.
There.
You know what, we'll do a
Hopefully
guided
there will be
meditation too.
coffee.
Guided meditation.
Can we do an
All right.
8:30 to
All right.
2? I think 3 would
8:30
be
to
calling.
8:30 to 2,
for me.
just put that here and,
8:30 to
There's
2.
a Dunkin' Donuts in the vicinity too.
oh, that's
Okay.
not,
Does 8:30 to 2, is that okay?
8:30 to 2 is fine.
yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, I'm
8:30
going with what you guys do.
So when you say
necessary
the
for me.
goals, are we to go there prepared with things that we think the goals are, and that's when we're gonna like all present them, and then,
Well, let me ask Mike about
Okay.
that.
I would love
you
to know what Mike says about how school
Let me ask
committees
him like
go.
how he's done it and what he would suggest, we
Okay.
have. And I may suggest, Barbie, that he talk to you because, maybe, you might have a different sense about it than maybe I would. Because
Okay.
it's really for us together, but I really more want it to be a day for the school committee to feel like you get what you feel you need.
well, I think with Mike, he's
Very
he's,
good.
yeah, very energetic and very
Yes.
engaging, and being a school committee member for as long as he was, he kind of gets it all.
Yeah. So I could
would
drop
hope,
him
though,
a
that
note.
He would facilitate it then and
He will.
create like a brainstorming
Yes,
session.
yes, that's what he would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he would do. But, you might wanna be thinking ahead on your own, what kinds of things, like as a school committee, that you wanna have 2 or 3 goals, as a committee that you think are important, like maybe, increase communication with the public, or, what are those, couple of things that
And I'm
you.
looking at that essential school board book
Book,
of yours
yeah.
that might give me some ideas.
Okay, so I will communicate with him, we talked about 8:30 to 2, school committee goals and superintendent evaluation process, just, he can see about how much of that we can tie in, as opposed to 2 separate topics, maybe there's ways to link them, right? And then I'm gonna suggest that, he give us any thoughts on how he might structure that discussion,
Sure.
if there's
And
any.
how much time he
and
thinks
how much
it'll
time.
take,
Yeah, okay, and then I'm gonna suggest that he and Barbie have a conversation. All right, great.
Okay. Okay, now we have the first reading of new policy, ACEA, discrimination, harassment.
Right. That's if anybody had any questions.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
So next meeting, we would vote on that.
Right. Music department donation, which, that was a great donation.
Yeah,
Very,
From the
very much.
GEF, that was
Yes.
wonderful. I'm sure
Huge.
Mr. Messina was thrilled with
Very
that.
excited, yes.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to accept the donation from the Georgetown Education Foundation to the district in support of the Georgetown Middle High School music program.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, the community service advisor stipend approval. Do you wanna talk about that?
Yeah, I tried to explain
did-
it a little bit in the notes to you. Included in the teacher's contract is a whole list of stipended positions. And generally, when we do a new contract, if there's any that are gonna need to be added, we add them. Well, this particular one kind of got away from Joe. This one started out when we did just freshmen only for the community service requirement, $600, and then the agreement was that as we added a grade, that the responsibility for that was going to increase, so we would add it up to $2,400. So here's why we're here. So the teacher put in for the stipend, and the payroll office said, we cannot pay you because we have no agreement. There's nothing in the contract about it. So Joe contacted me, we did up this letter, basically, and it just confirms. And so the plan would be in the next teacher's contract.
It will be in there.
This would go in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really just cleaning up a little bit of paperwork.
Did you have any issues?
No, I support this. This is an agreement we made.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the side letter of agreement for the community service advisor in the amount of $2,400 for the 2012-2013 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there is no need for executive session this evening. So the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:54.
So moved. With enthusiasm.
Okay, any questions?
Did you get that in the minutes with enthusiasm?
Okay. All in favor?